Hit the wrong button. What is up, everyone? What is up? And the little mini computer that I've been working on all day is, of course, on top of the headphones. Welcome to ADHD. How's it going, everyone? So, I've got my little project right here. Yeah. Bet you're wondering what I'm running on this. This right here is a computer I was actually gifted after DEF CON 31, so a little over 2 years ago. And originally this was a Start 9 server pure they sent to me for evaluation. And I've been using it. Start OS is nice, don't get me wrong. But I repurposed this because this had some good hardware and it's been sitting around for a little over a year and a half, and I wasn't getting much use out of it because a lot of the other services I would have run on it, I've put to pies and other things like that. This is running my logging server. This is going to be running my entire SIEM. I just started it. I'll show you a little bit about it. I had to actually fork a dashboard because it wasn't working. But this little guy here has a Core i7-10510U, I believe it is, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a 2 terabyte NVMe. So, pretty powerful little guy over here. It's made by Purism, not Start 9. Start 9 took Purism's device and repurposed it. They confirmed that to me. And Purism is the same maker as the laptop I use when I go to DEF CON, and that's running Pure OS. So this has Intel Management Engine disabled on it out the box. But it's a solid little device here, and that's metal. That's their own custom PCB and everything, from my understanding. But the I/O's pretty good on it. You got an HDMI display port, Type-C, 2 USB 3 ports back here, Ethernet, of course, and then the front you have 2 more USB-A Type 3s, Type 2s, headphone port. So, like, this is a nice little mini computer if anyone wants to get it. I have it running my logging server. So this is not just going to be a logging server. Right now it's just dashboards. But eventually it's going to be a full-blown, what we call in cybersecurity and IT, a SIEM. SIEM. Sierra Indigo Echo Mike. This is going to be a system information and event monitoring system. I will have Wuzza on here. I already have InfluxDB on here, grabbing all the information for my pfSense. Well, most of it. I have to add another system there for the IDS-IPS, Intrusion Detection and Intrusion Prevention System, which I'm using Suricata. So I may have to use Graylog to normalize the logs there, and then pipe it through. And we're going to have Wuzza in here. We're going to have Prometheus to monitor all the systems. And just to make this very clear, all of this is open source. This is not sponsored. This is completely just me tinkering with a project over here. So this has been a fun little project. Eventually, I will have a companion little mini PC, a much less powerful device than this. The reason why it needed more horsepower was I'm going to have OpenSearch on here as well as Wuzza and all these databases and everything. This is a Purism Librem Mini. Purism. P-U-R-I-S-M. Papa Unicorn, Ringo, Indigo, Sierra, Mike. And you can get it at puri.sm if you want to get this one in particular. This one was sent to me a little over a couple of years ago for a review of Start 9 OS uniform. Yeah, I'm tired, okay? I was close. But even though I like this device, it was more a case of I forgot it was right on top of my speaker for like a year and a half. And I was like, man, I need a more powerful device because I have this Lenovo mini PC that I was going to set up as the logging server. But the issue I was running into was I want to run N8N for the automation workflows for my new LLM server. I want to do monitoring of the devices for monitoring, the loads and, just the full-on analysis of everything going on there. I want a single pane of glass, basically, to view everything. So I can show you, just give me 1 second. I was in the middle of committing the dashboard, because the dashboard that I made for pfSense, I had to modify it because the old original version kind of broke with the new Grafana, but it took me a couple of hours, and I will have it out there open sourced, of course. At the MPL 2.0 license. Alright, so I gotta add the Mozilla public license to it, but while we're doing that, let me see. Oh yeah, I closed the, So I put this on its own VLAN. Not compatibility issues, it's just more of, formatting issues between the versions, because the dashboard hasn't been updated since, I think 2021, and I was using it a couple of years ago and there was really no issues. So I can show you a little bit of a highlight, but I can't go into everything with it because it is going to give away some sensitive information, as you could understand. So at a glance, this is the pfSense dashboard. Here, I'll move myself to the top so I get less stuff blocked. So it's working with my DNS BL, my IP block listing. So this is pulling all from pfblocker NG. You can even, let me see if I can get this down. You can actually see where in the world the things are blocking. This is all within the last minute. So let me pull from the last hour. And you can see blocked packets, blocked domain queries. And this is updating every 10 seconds. The CPU load, the RAM used, the disk utilization. Oh, that's the temperature, actually. That's the load. Processes, PF, states, the load on it. CPU right now, active users. I'm logged in SSH and over regular right now. The uptime, this I couldn't get formatted better than day, hour, minute, time like that, but so forget about Pi-hole and use pfSense. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually using Pi-hole's block lists in my pfSense, and I have it doing IP blocking and DNS blocking. So pfSense is way better, and it's your firewall for your entire network. So you'll get absolutely better security, and you get to do VLANs and all of this stuff. In fact, give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can skip over the WAN side of it for you guys to see. Okay, that's... We're going to collapse some of the interfaces. Going to collapse that interface. But I can see the entire traffic as it's going in real time, megabits per second. I just can't show you my IP and everything for obvious reasons. But I can show you, like, yeah, this should be fine. But this is the LAN traffic going over my network right now. Imagine you can do the same thing with WAN. So I can actually see in the past hour, I've had 6.3 gigabytes downloaded, 3.9 uploaded. I gotta tweak the dashboard a little bit. This was one of the pains that I had to fix, as well as the uptime. But everything else worked, and you can see my throughput here going over time. The other thing I can do, again, I'm gonna have to be careful with showing all of this. I have it collecting all of the information from my Unify. This should be good. So imagine you have a Dream Machine. You can get a lot more data here. It can't do the speed tests and all that, but I can get an idea of the data transfer going over with the sites. There's another one over here. Network sites. Hold on. Nope, I just showed that one. Client insights. I'm gonna have to scroll down a little bit. I'm trying to get to a place that I can actually show you something worthwhile. Okay, I'm gonna have to go to the screenshots that I actually took earlier, because that shows way too much stuff. But I can show this. Hold on. No, I don't run Arch. Yes, this is really live. Okay. Sorry. Minimizing it, collapsed a lot. So I can actually see all my Unify equipment. I can see the switch temperatures. I can see the memory usage on them, the CPU usage, the load average. There's a lot more it shows up top, like specifically each device. I can then hone in on which each device is using. So pfSense gives me the total firewall view. The Unify now brings it down to the per client level. And I can even see like their networks, their wireless signal strength, the channel they're using, issues they've had. Like this will let me get some real nice insight into different things. I'll bring up some screenshots that I took a little while ago. Let me see if I can grab another thing. All right, this is the access points. Let me see. Yeah, that should be good enough. Here we go. God damn it. What's a good customizer for Ubuntu, just for your personal use, if they made any sense? So I only use Ubuntu for servers. Like, all this I'm showing right now is running off of Ubuntu server. I use Pop! OS, and I don't really customize much. There's a lot out there, but yeah. So as you can see, with Unify, I can get an idea of all the different Wi-Fi networks and their access points. So these are... Actually, no, this is each access point. Their data, so I can actually see in real time channel utilization. This update refreshes every 30 seconds, by the way. On the 5 gigahertz, on the 2.4, the traffic. So you can do a lot with this guy. That's what I've been doing this afternoon. Just closing a couple of things there. Let me grab the screenshots that I actually had earlier. So I actually shared these in the Discord. So if you aren't a member of the Discord, you totally should be. We share some cool stuff there. Alright, so this was in the Discord. So you can see this is the client insights, so I can actually get the idea of each client, their transmission rate, their receive rate, their transmission attempts, the client stats to see the signal strength, retries, power, client satisfaction, like a lot of this. I can even tell if a device has been roaming. There's even that. So I can get a lot of detail. It's been a pretty fun project, I think, to say the least. And that's just getting started. I still got to build the entire EDR endpoint detection response, so I'm going to have everything monitoring on the servers. It's all going to be off of this little guy. But yeah, it was kicking my butt most of the day to figure that out. Mainly because that one dashboard was kicking my butt. For some reason, Claude keeps crapping out every time I ask it to just apply a license. I'm just trying to have it save me some time. Also, you're running a Dream Machine and pfSense? No, I'm not running a Dream Machine. I'm running pfSense and Unify switches and access points. The Dream Machine does not have the capabilities that I really want. It's not a bad device. It's like one of those, like, you have good and you have better. The problem that I have with Unify is a lot of their systems are too simplistic. They don't allow for granularity, and like when it comes to the IDS, IPS, the block listing, all of that, it just wasn't up to par compared to pfSense. So I just use pfSense with that. Now eventually I'm going to be moving, because I have the Unify controller, the Cloud Key Gen 2, and for some reason they don't make them anymore. They want you to use the Cloud Console thing. So I'm debating, I was looking at it and they want you to pay hosting costs. I'm like, F that. So I'm going to get a Raspberry Pi probably in the near future. Or, I may just run it on this little guy, to be honest. But probably a Pi with a UPS built in, just a little 18650 or better battery. Set that up to do all of that. I should set up NUT on this. Network, what is it? Network UPS tools. So basically what it'll do is I have my Synology NAS acting as a server that connects to the battery backup system. So if the battery starts getting low, it will send the signal to like turn everything off. And this also has an auto on that I set up inside the BIOS, so it'll just turn right on if there's ever an issue, if there's ever a power outage or something like that. But yeah, it's been a little fun project. Now, I've already done all that you saw. I've done that before. There were some videos a while ago wearing a Grafana t-shirt. That's actually why Grafana reached out to me and was like, hey, can we like do anything? I'm like, yeah, send me some swag. Now I'm gonna be enhancing it even more, because back then I was just kind of tinkering, and now that I've, you know, really used Datadog for the past few years at work, I really understand how to utilize all of this stuff. I actually like Grafana better than Datadog, but you can use Datadog as a source for Grafana, and Grafana has a cloud version too. They have a cloud version that's 50 gigabytes for free. So if you want to tinker around with that, you totally can. I just wanted everything running locally. I didn't feel like sending it out to the cloud, because part of what I'm doing here is network analysis, but the Grafana dashboard I'm using is open source. So you don't need to worry about having to pay licenses and all that. I'm trying to avoid all that stuff if I can for as much as possible. But yeah, it's been a fun little guy. And we're going to have a lot more content around this guy in the near future. I will be specifically talking about this more as I get that built out. There'll probably be a whole video covering just what this does, because I'm going to have another computer that is going to be running N8N for the automation stack, potentially run the SOAR, the Security Orchestrated Automated Responses. So I'm going to define things like if there's certain behaviors that was a seize, I can have it maybe shut down. I haven't played with Wuzza too much. I know CrowdStrike, so I'm gonna be interested to see how I can compare the features there. I'm just pushing the dashboard up to GitHub. Give me 1 second. Git branch M. And I will show you. This will all be on my GitHub, that little pfSense dashboard. Everything else is Unify Polar. That I've shown you so far, which is a whole other project. This is the beauty of open source is, hey, look, I found somebody else's code. And it doesn't completely work. Let me just get that working then. So, right now, I gotta fix the documentation a little bit, but I took their images. So this is their images, you can see. Nothing's really been changed all that much. Other than the little tweak for the dashboard. I'll probably do some more improvements to this over time. I just literally wanted to, like, get this working. Like, one of the things I've definitely done is they have a plugin set over here for telegraph information. So, you know, getting temperature, all this other stuff. I don't know if that came through with the old version. I had this installed a while ago. And all I mainly did was set up an installer that installed plugins.sh over there. And then set up this JSON over here. Tweaked it so that it would work with the pfSense dashboard they had. I gotta fix this, all that. But, yeah, it's been fun. There's tons more tinkering happening. Oh, yeah. I didn't tell you all about the fun bot. I made a Yo Mama bot. Well, this is for, my logging and system information and event monitoring system, a SIEM. So this is going to have the Eye of Sauron, basically, for my entire network. So when a lot of people go do network troubleshooting, they log into their router and then have to do 50 million things. So I'm having a single pane of glass. All I have to do is log into the Grafana. I can be like, firewall's acting okay over here. Access points are acting okay over here. I'm going to be setting up a speed test on this so that every 30 minutes or whatever cadence I have, it'll automatically do a speed test and plot that out. When I had that on the original version, which was running a Raspberry Pi, which I killed the SD card for because this is doing a lot of I/O, it was the reason why I was able to get so much credit for my ISP, because I was proving that they were actually below their service agreement on my speed, because they always usually have like an 80% guarantee, and I think I was getting like 50 or 60. Are you gonna have a guide for this, or is this strictly for your own tinkering? I'm gonna have a guide for the most part, but Grafana is so customizable. Like, it is insane. Let me get the Claude updating this. Yo, what's up? My internet was overloaded somehow. Sounds like you need a logging server. That's what I built. If you didn't see in the Discord earlier, Vampire, that'll be happen. What happened after you noticed that 50%? Well, my internet was crap. And the issue was, they were saying everything was fine on their end. And it was intermittent. Well, that speed test let me get an entire graph, send it to them, and say, here's my entire line of speed tests. Here's the parameters of how I ran that speed test, and everything like that. And they couldn't argue. That was the reason why they finally rolled truck, and then they had to, like, it ended up being like there were lines that were not secured, that when wind or something was blowing, so they had to, like, run a whole new line and everything. It was crazy. Hold on, I'm just updating the Claude, and then I will show you the fun bot that I made earlier. Yo Mama as a service. I made a bot for the Discord and Matrix servers. Some of the people that were in the Discord earlier had some fun with that. Presentable and all right, so we got that taken care of. Let me open up the Discord. I was just prompting Claude so that it could actually do the thing. Hightail is back in the hands of the original devs. Which one's Hightail? Hey, Sugar, how's it going? Thank y'all. Thank y'all. So, yeah, we got Yo Mama as a service. So, I open sourced another little bot. Let me pull up on my GitHub. This was a fun little project. I jokingly said I was going to do this one day and make a bot that's going to make Yo Mama jokes and stuff. So, I did. You could run this yourself too. Probably helps if I share the screen. So it's on GitHub. You can go to my GitHub, pull it up, get it Dockerized, build it, do whatever you want. Yo Mama as a service, deploying insults at scale. You should really read the README because it's kind of fun. I did so much. So you have an adjustable... So you can have multiple flavors. Hightail is a video game made by Hypixel. Okay. So you can have multiple flavors of jokes, cybersecurity tech, Linux gaming, programming, networking, cloud, DevOps, database, and more. You can also just have good old-fashioned, you know, Yo Mama jokes. Like, Yo Mama so fat. We have an adjustable meanness scale from 1 to 11. Why 11? Because it's one louder. If you don't get the reference... You should see Spinal Tap. Got a nerdiness control. It is LLM powered right now. I have it using Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite. Eventually, when I get my LLM server, that'll be one of the things that's going to run through my local server to do the processing. To get me some research figured out before I deploy my LLM-powered moderation bot, hopefully in the second half of next year. That's going to need at least a 5070 Ti running that. And then I'm probably going to end up putting two 5070 Ti's in there and put a load balancer between the GPUs so it spreads out the tasks. And that will be a moderation bot I hope to build for... hold on. For Twitch, Kick, Discord, and Matrix. So it'll be pulling double duty. And the reason why I'm using an LLM for that is, well, it's quite simple. So most bots, their limitation is that they really only can, what's the word? Function off of regex. So basically, you have to have your regex set so finely, and as we've seen, there's many people that can get around it. So I plan to keep the regex mod bot there for the first layer of defense, and then the LLM is basically going to capture every other message. Now, there was a tool, Vampires mentioned it in a few streams, called Frosty Tools, and it used to smack talk people and make funny things up. So it's going to also be able to do that, where it's going to keep a history of the entire chat and to throw it into regular RAM and be able to check patterns of what people have said. For one, see if, you know, they're trying to do dog whistles, racism, things like that, so I can have a history per stream of what's going on. And then with that history as well as the added bonus of it can go through and then do a recap of the chat every, like, 15, 20, 30, whatever minutes I set up. But the first LLM server is going to be there to do my research on moderation, because I want to set up TTS, text-to-speech. And it's going to be doing the initial filtering for that to, like, do checks and everything, because TTS regex, again, can only do so much. The LLM will be able to check for other things, and then set up a human-in-the-loop flow, potentially, with the API, if I can figure that out from Stream Elements, so that before it gets posted to my stream, it'll go into a Discord or Matrix a channel that I set up for me to approve that, or my moderators to approve it. So this has been pretty much a fun little project to do some research on and everything. But Yo Mama as a service. So, you come into Yo Mama. You can do hashtag /joke. And you can, like, say, let's get a flavor here. We got so many different flavors here. Let's just do a classic one. We'll set the meanness to 11. Nerdiness to a 1. And that should be good. It's going to process right now. Yo Mama's so old they got her gravestone a year of manufacture sticker. Have you played around with streamable APIs? Because REST is pretty limiting. I'm cooking on that too. I haven't, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to play with that a little bit more. Now, the other thing we also have, I had to bake this in. Set that to 11, and we'll set it to a 1. You're going to notice this flavor of secret. Well, there's an Easter egg in there. You so lost the game, your commit history looks like a git rebase conflict that was resolved by a git reset -- hard head 10 1 million with a side of kernel panics during a critical Spectre v2 mitigation update. You just lost the game. Sorry. So, yeah, that's a fun little project we have in there. It runs on a Raspberry Pi. It's Dockerized. You can run it yourself in your own servers by hosting it yourself. I open source the code. I don't have quite the infrastructure to allow people to just put it into their server. Maybe one day I will when I get around to Kubernetes. Chief, I'm sorry, but you just lost the game. No. You all! Chat just lost the game. The other thing is I'm going back to school. I figured it was about time. There were a few colleges that will take my prior degree and the experience and the classes I've had from my community college and my CISSP certification. So potentially, I may be getting my bachelor's in like 6 months. Should we rename Chicago to Packy-land? I thought it was Chirac. But yeah, I've been working on this little logging server all day while I was knocking out courses on study.com. If you've been in the Discord or the Matrix server, you probably heard me complaining because I was looking at hacks to be able to finish college faster before I even start. So there were a few courses I saw that I probably should take, like ethics and public speaking. Apparently were part of the course. So I'm working on those. Hope to have those knocked out within the week. Have the credits taken care of. Yeah, I read your other messages about Hightail. Was there anything else? Yeah, so I found out about study.com from a friend, and yeah, so that was a nice little cheat. Cost me a little bit of money to get that going, but it's gonna save me a lot more money than going to get another term in college. Why is... That's weird. My chat is not showing in the OBS thing. Normally I do that. Hold on. Let me get this going, because I think my mod bot was capturing some stuff. Oh yeah, and I had to set up a Windows 11 PC for all the testing and everything. Luckily I have a spare. Because, you know, I found out that, you know, some of those proctoring softwares aren't really built for it, but it is what it is. Custom browser dock. There we go. Cool. Twitch chat should be there. God damn it. Gotta sign in. Wait, what? I should have set this up before I was on stream. That's on me. That's on me. Oh yeah, and then I got my resume completely redone as well. I have a feeling I was getting caught by ATS systems when I was trying to do. What's that mini display thing next to your transparent speaker looking thing? Oh. I just realized one of my penguins is missing. Oh no! They had a penguin jailbreak. I had another penguin over there. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So this... Gotta get that back. I got these penguins sent to me as a gift. There we go. So this... That's, Davoom sent me this. I've been playing with it. This is a speaker clock, but it can do so many different things. I thought it was kind of like an interesting little gimmicky thing, but it's actually, you know, pretty fun. You can actually change the clock faces on there if you want. I have the DOS. You can also, you know, put an SD card with music. You can have a white noise generator in there. And you can adjust the white noise too. Crackling fire, oceans, rain. So yeah, it actually surprised the hell out of me, all the things you can do with it. Turn that off before it annoys me on stream. Of course, there's settings, there's little games in here, a few utility tools. You can have an alarm in there, a photo, you know, like this is actually like a really cool little device. I was actually surprised. I think it's going for like 80 bucks if I'm not mistaken. But, like now that I know about it, I actually would buy that. Straight up. So I will have a review on that later. Because it actually is a really fun little device. I actually really enjoyed that. There is Bluetooth for the speaker as well, so if you want to hook up a Bluetooth speaker, you totally can with that. And the speaker quality on it is like surprisingly good. Play Borderlands on it. We'll get Doom on it. Okay, so hold on. I'm getting the, get my YubiKey. There we go. There we go. Yay! I can see it. Okay. Wait, no, play Doom. Yeah. Yeah, remember when I was trying to make a game and couldn't find a good game engine? Well, technically I can use Hytale as a game engine. Nice. I did hear there's also, what is it, the Godot, Redo thing? I know I covered some drama they had around the Godot thing, but it is an open source project, so you can do whatever you want with it. Although some people had an issue with Godot and then forked it and made their own thing called Redo. I don't know if anything's happened with it or if it was just like one of those, you know, we're gonna do this out of spite and then nothing really comes out of it. Or if it's gonna actually be like wasn't it like Core Boot and Libre Boot that like had a split or something like that, if I remember, and that's how it happened. There's quite a few projects in the open source world that are like, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm gonna go over here and make my own. But yeah, I gotta get another Raspberry Pi 4 gigabyte so that I can set up that Unify controller for my stuff, because the battery is no longer good in the Unify Cloud Key Gen 2 I got, which annoys me because I got that because I was like, oh yeah, it should be there. Do you know how hard it is to replace the battery on those? And do you know how many different batteries there are that potentially could be in there? It is a pain. So I'm just like, you know what? We're gonna go with a Raspberry Pi. It's about equivalent in the power and everything, and then see if I can transfer over the entire management. Which will mean I have to move the Unify Polar, but I think that I'll tie that into, doing the other network upgrade that I have of moving all of my, network management to its own VLAN. I know some people are gonna be like, what, you're not doing that already? Look, it's my home network. I mean, I'm already overkill in other ways, but why not go in even more ways? So yeah, we got Yo Mama as a service. That was a fun little bot. And it's working in the Matrix server too. But yeah, Hytale isn't even out, and yet there is 700 mods made by the community and server plugins from the community. Really? That's kind of interesting. But yeah, so, that'll be interesting, getting this all together. What I need to figure out, though, is, so, let me go to my checklist here. I should actually make a checklist. Sorry, I was responding to someone on the Matrix server. So, we've got Grafana. We did the automated patching with Patch Gremlin. We have InfluxDB. That's what's grabbing all the... we're pushing all the data to right now. So let's actually section this out. We have pfSense. And we have Unify. I love the part where you host your own private server. The devs are pushing for you to own the server. That's nice. I mean, a lot of games are not doing that anymore, and I miss that aspect of gaming because we used to, you know, own our shit. And I just realized that the audio's not working when I, at least to you guys. Oh yeah, I was testing my audio system here. I was trying to figure out a tweak for it. So it reset a bunch of times. Okay. And back to combined.
front, left.
Yeah, for some reason, it does not, keep the HDMI audio at 30% when I reset it. Basically, what's going on is, remember I used to have to reboot the computer because the pipe wire stack for all the things I had connecting would mess up. So this script keeps me from having to do that. Now I've been trying to create a watchdog to watch for all of that. That part's done, but there's a weird issue that, one, it keeps resetting to 30%, levels, and two, for some reason, the Rodecaster Pro 2 mixer that I use to get audio to my speakers and my headphones, and also take the mic in, the system will see it there, push the audio to it, but the Rodecaster itself won't put any audio until I physically unplug the USB and plug it back in. So that's the only issue I've been having with it, and it only happens when I set up the combined sync. And it may only happen like once every other day. So, but yeah, back to the logging system. So we want to get Prometheus. So what Prometheus is going to do is monitor my system. There was like Zabbix and stuff like that, and it's a bit redundant, and Zabbix is heavy. And I don't have like SNMP, Simple Network Manager Protocol, Management Protocol, or other stuff that really makes sense. So I'm just going to install Prometheus agents on my Linux and Windows boxes. Well, there's only Window box. And the idea there is it's going to feed back all of the metrics into the logging server over here. So imagine I can go through and see, yeah, it was, it's running this much CPU and GPU, and it was doing these things. Then we're going to have WASA as well. Oh yeah, so we are missing one component for pfSense. So this is doing pfBlocker NG for DNS and IP, and the entire system for it. But we're going to need pfSense Suricata. So what I'm probably going to have to do is get Graylog to normalize Suricata logs to Grafana. The basic game price is $19.99 standards, and the Founder Edition is $89. Not bad though. Reason they have you pay right now is because they got the game form Riot games that still need to pay the legal fees. Yeah, Riot. Isn't Riot the one that put like anti-cheats and stuff in there? No, you're fine. You're allowed to be excited. Alright, so we're going to do Prometheus, monitoring, NVIDIA, export, and system. And we're going to do WASA. So the idea is Grafana will give me the one single pane for all of this entire system that I'm building out. So right now we've got these two knocked out. The next thing I'll probably tackle is probably get the Graylog over here. So all I got to do is use Graylog, which is another logging system that you can use, feed my Suricata logs into it for the intrusion detection and prevention system, have it normalize those logs, and then send it back out into Grafana. Riot games don't work on Linux. Yeah, because Riot sucks. Got my live recommended twice in a row. I think they're trying to tell you something there, buddy. Oh yeah, I should get the speaker on just for the it's got all the LGBs.
Mode.
That is a speaker next to another speaker. These are cool looking speakers. And then of course we got my little penguins over there, and you can't see it, but I got my, Plushtodon, Detective Pikachu, CrowdSec, Llama. Ooh, I gotta set up CrowdSec. Yeah! It's a good thing I mentioned that. So CrowdSec is basically fail to ban on steroids. They have an open source version. Let me show you. I met these guys at DEF CON 31, and they were really cool. And I love the product they have. So they have an open source version, as you can see over here. Oh, I didn't even start? Okay. But yeah. So, oh, this is great. They have a little GIF here. So, basically the idea is you can send all your logs in to the CrowdSec security engine over there, and they can actually aggregate it from the entire community out there reporting issues, so you can preemptively block things that are bad stuff. All this just to open Chrome. We don't use Chrome around here! But CrowdSec is a IDS, IPS, and WAF, your web application firewall. Is Bamboo Lab P1S 3D printer with AMS a great beginner printer? The issue I have with Bamboo Labs is they are proprietary down to the parts that you use to repair it. There's been a lot of people that have been complaining about their support model, and didn't they have like some licensing change or something that pissed off a lot of people like a year or two ago? So, as far as a starter printer, I mean, yeah, but as far as the company goes, find someone else. Why does VirusTotal say something is a virus, but my antivirus says that file isn't a virus? Well, VirusTotal is running against, what, like almost 100 different virus engines and everything. So it could be one of two things. It could be a false positive, and, you know, your machine's fine. But the way I look at it is you need to look at the results with VirusTotal and see how many virus scanners are flagging it. Because the rule of thumb is if multiple ones are flagging it, then there's probably something with it. But yeah, CrowdSec, definitely want to get them integrated. Where's their documentation? So you can see you can install it to a lot of things. There we go, pfSense package. The CrowdSec package for pfSense is not installed from official repositories. When are they gonna do that? Seems pretty straightforward. Ooh, the log processor is running the following. Okay. I'm wondering if this can be supplemental, or do I need to replace my Suricata system? But anyway. Ooh, they have a Kubernetes setup. Yeah, when I start making my stuff public, I'm gonna have to put this up. But when I start installing Linux servers in the cloud, I'm gonna be definitely using CrowdSec more. I like them a little bit more than Fail2Ban. Don't get me wrong, I like Fail2Ban. Fail2Ban's fine. But they use Fail2Ban in their stack to help protect your system. Trigger CrowdSec's test scenarios, SSH. Okay, so basically it's doing the... Okay, this will be nice, because then I can layer it onto Cloudflare's WAF. Huh. They've improved it a little bit since I've seen this. Post installation steps, consoles, whitelists. Ooh, it's got a Prometheus endpoint. You know what that means? We can put it into Grafana. Which music? What, the music I'm playing? That's stuff that's exclusive to me. I had some people make beats for me. So the usual background music I have here, that's my own. That I have rights to. Well, it's not my own. It's music I have rights to. And you ain't gonna find it really anywhere else. So, now what I'm curious about, and this is where we can go into Grafana before we pull in some other videos. Hold on. Open source. Here we go. So Grafana has dashboards you can pull for a lot of different stuff, so you'd be surprised. Ooh, they have a Rabbit MQ? Nice. Could use that at work. They have a lot of different, Ooh. They have a lot of different dashboards that you can use. So, let's see if they have... CrowdSec. Hey! They do! Uses Loki and Prometheus. Nice! So this will be great for my home lab. Now, when I host things in the cloud, I'll have a different Grafana instance set up to hit it up in the Grafana cloud. Just because I want to keep local and, you know, that. Matrix has its own thing set up. Did you pick a TTS engine for your stream yet? TTS yet? No, I have not. Is it a review on stream? Yes, it'll be. If 3 antivirus are flagging, it doesn't mean it's bad, or is it fine? If you got a few flagging it, that means it's worth inspection, because you have to remember some antivirus is more ahead of the time, and they may be catching things earlier than the rest. Autistic, and I can't read music, but I'm good with sounds, and with sounds like really good with waves. Nice. Whole Stories Hightail was made by Hypixel and built by Riot Games, and Riot fired the devs and wiped the game. Now Hypixel got it back from Riot Games. Probably at an arm and a leg price. This'll be nice, though. I can actually supplement that probably with, And these dashboards are pretty recent. 2025. Let me see, what do we got over here? 2024. Yeah, so these should be well supported. Yeah, 2025 with multiple updates. I'm gonna have to look at which of these dashboards is probably better. Because I've been trying to get some insights into what's actually hitting the firewall. Because this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand. There are automated attacks going on everyone's network any time of the day. This isn't like me being crazy. This is legit. Once you get a firewall, you start seeing people are scanning all the time to see like any vulnerability. That's why we say you should always keep things patched. But eventually I'll pick the TTS engine, but first I need to get the logging and SIEM together, and then I will get the LLM server. Then once the LLM server is built, I have the automation server to worry about. Then once the automation server is set up, then we get to the TTS. So it'll be at least a couple of weeks. No, I did not get the mini laptop upgrade yet. I haven't even ordered it yet because I have so many other priorities right now. I want to order it, but they also aren't... last I checked, they weren't available yet. mntready.com. So what he's talking about is my mini laptop over here, this Pocket Reform over here, and they had an upgrade since I bought it, which comes with the current version right now. the RK3588, which makes it really, really nice. But I would need to... What is this? R-Core carrier port? But I would need to get the Wi-Fi card and the 32 gig module, but it's 730 euro. And as you can see, it's currently in production and expected to ship in about 2 months. So it's not, it's real, even if I buy it today, it would be a couple of months. And then once they, you know, get in production, it's probably going to be another month or two until they get through their run of devices. But I do plan to get it because right now I'm using the MX8M over here. So like you can see, this is the CPU I currently have. This is the RK3588. I have 8 gigabytes of RAM. I want to get the 32. Maybe the 16 is more than enough. Maybe. We'll see. But I'm like, I should probably get the 32 anyway. Oh, thank you. Just for the multitasking capabilities and stuff like that. Because then I will definitely move that to primary. So the issue is with the current spec is, one, the speed isn't really the issue because it's a little laptop for me. The issue is more so that the Wi-Fi... the Wi-Fi on the stock version is not that good. It keeps dropping. And the reason for it was the Wi-Fi on the stock version is built into the SoC. And it was not that good, which is part of the reason why they stopped shipping that one, even though it was more of an open source firmware than the RK3588. So what this does is this is the CPU upgrade for the little ARM laptop I have, and this is the daughter board to upgrade because the stock one doesn't have the wireless card there, but that's the audio board, so it has the audio and there's a little ribbon cable you plug into there, and I think that's also, yeah, that's the power switch over here. So I have to replace that whole daughter board to get the Wi-Fi card in, and it currently is a cell modem that I'm using. So I have a 4G cell modem with like Mint Mobile, I think it is, and I may switch it over to their data plan they have, but yeah, the Minternet, because right now it doesn't have that much data. But anyway, yeah. Now, why is it as much? Well, even though it's not as powerful, this is a small boutique company. They're not making things at mass scale like Valve is. This is a small company, I think like with like a dozen people in Germany, hand designing all of this. So this is designed from scratch. Like the Valve Steam Deck, I'm not knocking it, but they're basically just getting AMD, putting it onto a board, getting a screen, putting it on, building a case. There is still engineering involved, but I don't think there's as much engineering as is involved with a whole laptop from the ground up. And don't get me wrong, it's great. The Steam Deck is great, but also, this has mechanical keys. This is an anodized aluminum case. You know, this is all pretty much custom. Like, the keyboard they did, it's custom. The, case, custom. The screen and the batteries, I think, are, like, the only things they didn't design. Because they had the motherboard they had to design, the daughter board over here, the side pieces, all of this. Yeah. So that's why it costs more, is it's not selling in nearly the mass quantities that Valve has. Valve is shipping, what, millions of units? They're shipping hundreds. maybe thousands. And again, nothing wrong with Valve. I like Valve. I like what they do. I personally was debating getting a Steam Deck or that, but the MNT Pocket Reform won out because I'm like, I can actually use that. I don't really game on the go. That's just what it comes down to. Your thoughts on the Steam Frame VR PC? I'm actually thinking about getting it, the headset, because it's full-on Linux built into it, and I'm sitting there like, you know, that'd actually be a decent device, even if I don't really do VR gaming, depending on the price. All this is dependent upon the prices they release. I do want to get the controller for sure, because I have the original Steam controller, and it's okay, but I still use my Xbox 360 one for a reason, because the dual thumbsticks, much better. So I'm definitely getting the controller. The VR goggles, I'm considering it, not because I'm a VR gamer, but my mindset was, imagine I need to go check my emails or something because it's running full Linux. If I can get Thunderbird running on that, and it's a Snapdragon CPU, so I don't see why not. I think there's an ARM version of Thunderbird, which is the email client I use. Then I could easily check my email on there and do little bits of work. I think that would be nice if I can, because I think there's an expansion port. Imagine if I can do that and have a keyboard. That'd be nice. Or watch videos, because Yitz is always complaining that I need to watch TV as I go to sleep. I can't just go to my bed and go to sleep. So I've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the past, week or two, rewatching the entire thing. And you have to turn the speakers all the way down. I can connect Bluetooth. Yeah, that makes sense, a Bluetooth keyboard. I can get, a Keychron Bluetooth keyboard. Actually, I think I already have one, and I can just get a wired version for the desk. But yeah, now what I'm going to be curious about is the Valve PC itself. Even though I have no plans to buy the Steam machine whatsoever, I'm still curious about it. Now, I did see the announcement they had that it's going to be priced like a computer, not like a console. We still don't know what that means, because there are computers that are still, near console prices. The GameCube. Original Steam controller is meant to let you play games. They had no control support. Easier with the controller. See, that's the problem. I play games that were designed to have controller support that need a controller, like Black Myth Wukong, Silk Song, was the Hollow Knight Silk Song. There are quite a few games I was playing that you need a controller for. They were designed explicitly for it. And that's when I use a controller. Otherwise, I'm a keyboard and mouse player all day. Now, there are times I'll switch between controller and PC in games. Any game that has a driving component, like Grand Theft Auto, Mafia, what's the other one? Watch Dogs. I switch to the controller when I drive. I just can't do keyboards for car driving. Imagine if they allow motion mouse control on the Stream Frame VR PC. What does that mean? You use the mouse and you move around? just like a regular PC game. How would that work, though, in a three-dimensional space? Because I think with, hold on. I got a device. I haven't used it in a while. But this would be the perfect mouse for that. Give me a sec. Yes, here it is. This is a 3D connection mouse. Like, this is designed for CAD cam. You can push down, push up, swivel it around. Like, this is designed for 3D design. It's not that cheap either. I only use this for, like, CAD cam for a little bit. It's a nice device, though. But I think that's the kind of mouse you would need for VR. Now, if they'd build support for it, that's a whole other thing. You can boot up a program on the index to let you view your desktop. Yeah, but I like the whole thing with the Valve frame. I think that's what they're calling the glasses. That it is the computer. That would be nice to have that just as the computer. Like, I would totally use that, like, when I'm on a plane to watch a movie. Like, that would be, like, the perfect kind of device for that. Or, you know, do something while I'm on a plane, or, you know, something like that. Let's say I'm out in public and need a little bit more privacy. Like, bank stuff, some work-related stuff. Things I don't want to potentially be shoulder surfed over. Steam machine will buy because I want a PC hooked on the TV. Looks right in the amount of tiny. I hear that. Don't get me wrong. I love a good HTPC. I built a few. Like, if and when I get a house with a proper living room, I would totally use that as a media PC. That way I could, do all my streaming shows. And then if I want to, play controller games on there. Alright, but let's get into some of the stuff. Man, we had a lot of videos. There was one from Naomi Brockwell. Let me see how long this is. I may save that for another day. I like her. I met her in person. Okay. Yeah, this should be quick enough. The game box to do and emulation in Linux native gaming. Yeah.
How long has it been since you rebooted your devices?
It's been 84 years.
Do
I
you
reboot
remember
once
the
a
last
week.
time you turned your phone off? How about your computer? Many people don't actually think to do this because, as long as everything is working, why spend the hassle resetting everything? But if you care about security, privacy, and a device that behaves, you should probably reboot more often. This is a short guide on why regular reboots are worth it and how...
You know what's funny? How often the majority of times I've been doing troubleshooting for users, it ends up being that they just needed to reboot their machine. Like, I tell people you should reboot your machine once a week, whether you like it or not. Just once a week.
How often to do them? First, rebooting a device can help kill off malware. Why is this the case? Well, because memory plays a big role in many on-device attacks.
Yep.
Attackers often start with code that runs in memory before they try to make the intrusion stick. Some use memory as a foothold as they try to gain persistence on the device, which is when an attacker is able to maintain access to your device even after a reboot.
A lot of the iOS compromises depend on that.
Especially targeted attacks that deliberately avoid dropping files and run entirely in memory to evade disk-based antivirus scanning. When you restart your device, it clears something called volatile memory, which is the data that is lost when power is removed.
Just
And it
RAM.
includes things like the RAM. So any code that was only running there disappears, including any malicious code. Now, a reboot will not remove threats that already achieved persistence, and it won't undo any firmware level implants or fix account compromises that don't involve code on your device.
Yep.
But it does wipe temporary memory-only code and can disrupt attacks that were in progress but hadn't established persistence yet. Second, reboots help clear background junk. Your phone and computer run lots of background processes, and if your phone stays on for long periods,
Especially
this
on
can get
Windows.
messy. A restart puts everything back in a known good state. For example,
Although
apps
Windows
that have
was
been
never
running
in a
for
known
days
good
can
state
start
the day
using
you
more
installed
and
it.
more memory, or hang on to temporary files they're done with, or keep your processor working when it shouldn't. Or you might
Yes,
have
it works
some
on the
crash
real bugs. Well,
services
not
where
real
parts of the
bugs. You got
system
roaches in
stop
your computer, you
responding
got bigger
even though
problems.
the device seems fine on the surface. Or you might have stale network sessions, so old Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, VPN, or server connections that didn't close properly. Restarting your device closes every process cleanly, clears the RAM, and relaunches system services. It also forces fresh network handshakes and keys for Wi-Fi, VPN, Bluetooth, and secure websites. And it clears out states that are stuck, so you usually see fewer glitches, more reliable connectivity, and less battery drain. Essentially, it
Yeah.
gives your device a fresh start. Next,
Unless
lots
you
of
have it set to,
security
like,
fixes,
automatically
especially
open everything you had
operating
closed in your
system and firmware
session.
patches, only become active
Know someone that had
after
lanced on
a
their
reboot.
laptop.
On
There's a
Android, for
reason
example,
why
when
I
your
don't do
OS
consumer
updates over the air,
repair
they use
anymore.
something called AB
Besides that,
seamless
it doesn't pay
updates,
enough.
which ensures that you don't overwrite
There
the
were too many
currently running system. The new
roaches that
build
came
is
out of computers that I
removed an
saw.
inactive slot, and the working system stays intact. This ensures that there's always a bootable system if something goes wrong. Your phone only switches to the updated build after a reboot. On modern Android, many devices use something called virtual AB, which writes updates to snapshots. Instead of duplicating the whole OS, Android copies only the parts that change and keeps the previous version intact. After you reboot into the updated build and it's marked successful, Android merges the snapshot into the main system. Again, this means that if something goes wrong, the device can safely roll back to the previous version. But again, you have to reboot to activate the updated build. Mainline Google Play System updates
Most
are also
updates will
safe,
force you to do
meaning
an
they're
update anyway.
downloaded and
I mean, a
prepared in the
reboot anyway.
background, but only take effect after you reboot. This approach makes the process safer and prevents updates from interfering with components that are currently running. But these updates don't force an automatic reboot themselves. You have to do it for them to take
that one
effect.
doesn't?
Now on iOS, there are two main kinds of updates. First, there are rapid security responses, which are quick, urgent patches. They can install automatically in the background, but only if you've
On a
turned
work
on
phone, if you're
security
not up to
responses
date,
and system
you can't
files
log in,
automatic
and 9
updates.
times out of 10,
Otherwise,
that's
you
the
have to
issue.
install them manually. And it's important to note that whether you install them automatically or manually, these updates only take effect after a reboot. If you never restart your phone, these updates remain staged, so installed but inactive. Basically, if you don't reboot your device, you don't benefit from these urgent patches. And then there are full iOS updates, which are the regular OS releases.
I was
These
done wearing a
always require
hazmat suit
restart because
while
they
cracking
replace
open
core
people's
parts of the
computers.
system.
Yep.
If you have automatic updates on, iPhones
You
can
learn
install
how
these
nasty
overnight
people
when the phone
live.
is plugged in and on Wi-Fi, and the phone will reboot itself. But if you have automatic updates turned off, the device won't install or restart on its own.
You
It
should
will
be
wait
having
until
automatic
approved.
updates
Now,
enabled.
apps are a different thing.
Whether it's
They will
Linux, Mac, or
generally restart
Windows.
themselves after updating. But system and firmware updates often need a full device reboot before the
If you need
changes
help on
actually
Linux,
take
I made a whole
effect.
patch
If you skip
gremlin.
that step, Yep, some protections can quietly sit on the runway for months before they're activated. Another reason to reboot is that a freshly rebooted device has the strongest level of protection. So on modern devices, your data is usually encrypted at rest, and the device requires you to put in a PIN or password to unlock it. These devices house long-term secrets, protected by hardware such as Apple's Secure Enclave and Android's Titan M chip and TEE. When you enter your password or PIN after a reboot, the device uses that hardware along with your credential to derive or unlock the decryption keys for your data. Until you type these things in though, your decryption keys are still sealed inside the hardware and can't be used to open your files. This is the strongest locked state of your device, often called before first
If you get Graphene OS, even after it's unlocked, they can't extract data off of it.
Or derives the keys. It loads certain keys into RAM so that apps and background services can function, and so that your device doesn't keep asking for your passcode every 5 seconds. And even when you lock the phone again after first unlock, some keys may remain available for background functions. And on computers, lock often just means sleep, which keeps RAM powered on, and the data inside the RAM.
That's also why I hate the Windows hybrid boot setup.
Device after first unlock, keys in memory
is the same on EOS. No,
via vulnerabilities or specialized
Graphene
attacks.
is the only one that's hardened against a lot of these things that I say again.
Is easier for someone to break into.
Graphene's the only one that's like super hardened.
RAM is wiped, so any keys or sensitive data that were in memory are flushed. You're back to the strongest locked state until you enter your passcode again. If you're in a situation where someone might gain physical access to your phone or computer, restarting it and leaving it locked makes it much harder for them to get in. Then there are privacy benefits to powering off your device. If it's truly powered down, your device
transmit NES wirelessly, but it's illegal. What?
Doing a reboot interrupts active radios and background telemetry, and powering off stops the continuous data collection while the device is off. But powering down can also remind you that you don't
have telemetry gathered on my machine
at all times. Any chance that you can take to turn off your device when you don't need it helps stem the flow of information extracted from it. Often during the day, I like to have my phone on me just in case I need it, but I don't necessarily need to use it at all times. Keeping it powered down reminds me that the tracking device in my pocket only works when I allow it to. Now, there's one caveat I want to mention here. I said if your device is truly powered down, it stops sending out data. But these days, on many devices, there are processes that might still run, even when the device appears to be off. For example, if you opt in to device recovery services, your phone will continue to send out a small, low-energy Bluetooth beacon, even after being supposedly powered down, to help you
find Intel devices, they have the management engine.
The Find My Network allows you to locate the phone for up to 24
AMD is similar
hours
with the PSP, I think.
And on recent Pixels, for example, the network can locate the phone for several hours after it's turned off, as long as Bluetooth and location were on when you shut it down. In both cases, you have to opt in to this functionality first. If you truly want radio silence, you can disable these Find My When Powered Off features before shutting down the device. Now, how often should you reboot? Well, as often as you want any of the benefits that I've mentioned in this video. At a minimum, after you install any update, reboot your device to make sure that the full
I do about once a week, regardless.
But perhaps you can find other opportunities to turn off your devices when you're not using them. For example, you might shut off your computer.
No, they don't have that to my knowledge.
You could turn off your phone when you're in a meeting or busy having lunch.
Intel has an actual chip that's like its own operating system inside of it.
Because I don't always feel like I need the device turned on. But I am kind of strange in that I relish any opportunity to unplug the constant data collection machine that I carry in my pocket. I also have a Graphene phone, which allows me to have different profiles on the same device that don't run in the background. So I'm effectively shutting off.
Well, Graphene's also going to be releasing a whole new phone. They're in partnership with somebody. They haven't announced the vendor last I checked.
The NSA has a public guide on mobile device best practices. They recommend powering your phone off at least once a week.
That's literally where I got the once a week recommendation from, was the NSA paper that talked about that.
About device attacks, because After all, they helped invent most of them, so it's probably good advice. If you're high risk, many labs recommend daily restarts because, as mentioned, certain spyware loses its foothold on reboot and must re-exploit, which increases the
Graphene
chance of
OS can
detection
automatically
and
reset
failure.
if you
Graphene
set
OS
it to.
has a timer that you can set to auto-reboot your phone after a certain period
The
of
timing!
activity, which puts the device back at rest. This is helpful if you don't want to have to think about it, and also a great security measure against physical brute
The
force
phone is due
attacks
end of
the
next
device.
year, early
Android
2027.
also
I
has
think
an
that's right.
auto-reboot feature that kicks in after the device has been locked for 3 days, returning it to the before first unlock state where the data is fully
Graphene OS
sealed.
basically took
And
that
some
feature and
Samsung
allowed you to
phones also
customize when you
support
reset it.
scheduled auto restarts. Now, rebooting is not a silver bullet. It won't remove persistent threats or root level implants.
Just go
But
back to
regularly
flip phones.
Rebooting your devices is helpful for improving your security, privacy, and device stability.
The only issue is that there's not that many flip phones that work on modern
easy.
networks, and they're starting to get rid of
This isn't
2G.
something that's part of your
Thank
regular
God.
routine,
And
you
3G
might
will
wanna
be
consider
gone
including it.
in a few
Think
years
of it
too.
like turning off the lights when you leave a room. It's just a good practice to get into the habit of. NBTV is a project of the Ludlow Institute, a non-profit research and media institute focused on advancing freedom through technology. If you want to support our mission or support our grants program, where we give grants to researchers so that they can uncover hidden surveillance in everyday tech, please visit ludlowinstitute.org/donate. And also visit our merch shop for cool clothes that support the mission as well. Okay, we're done. Time to turn out the lights.
Yep, pretty straightforward. Reboot your phone, at least after every update. I do it once a week. Alright, so this is something a member of the community sent over. Behind the complaints or investigation into the suspicious pressure on archive.today. Oh, this is about that. Okay, yeah, the FBI has been investigating them, basically, and it's been kind of suspicious because the reason why archive sites like archive.org and such are very valuable is we can hold politicians, businesses, and such accountable for when they make changes on their website. Like, for example, when Trump came into office, we saw just how many websites were removing things. It's how we knew he, like, removed references to, I think, like, the Tuskegee Airmen and all of that. But the FBI has been going after archive.is, which is archive.today, and trying to reveal the anonymous owner behind it. And that's an issue because, well, when it comes to stuff like this that can hold those that are in power accountable, anonymity is a powerful tool. That's why, like, everyone that's like, well, you know, you should have your actual identity on the internet. No, you shouldn't. In many cases, no, you shouldn't. Hey man, just saw your Outbreak video and finished my installation. Right, Montgomery was on Sean Ryan, so he piqued my interest, and I wanted to say thanks to you for your effort too. Appreciate it. But yeah, so the FBI has been going after this archive site. Wait, what? Block the phone. They don't host this stuff. They're an archive. That's how we got entangled. A few weeks ago, we were contacted by a representative of an organization called the Web Abuse Association Defense, a French group claiming to fight against child SIEM. Their website is We Abuse Defense. We Abuse Defense. Freudian slip, webabusedefense.com, and here's the archived version as of November 7th. They demanded that we block domain archive.today and its mirrors and AdGuard DNS, alleging that the site's admin had refused to remove illegal content since 2023. To be clear, archive.today allows users to take snapshots of any web pages, yada yada yada. That's the whole point of it. This struck us as strange. We're not a hosting provider, and it seems unusual for an infrastructure-level service like ours to be asked to take action like this. Yeah, it's not an issue of, like, there's malicious content. This is, I think, a case where AdGuard, or, you know, things like Ad Nauseam, uBlock Origin, all that, they don't have a place in blocking this, because there isn't anything truly malicious or tracker-related, and it's outside of their scope. Soon after, the situation escalated into what we could only describe as direct threats. I'm reading through this for a sec because I don't want to accidentally say. We remind you that all evidence demonstrating that this site has been hosting and massively distributing SIEM repeatedly and in an organized manner for several years has already been communicated to you. Given your inaction and the seriousness of facts, we will now file a complaint in your country through our international lawyer in Europol. This sounds like a whole other argument. Because, yes, archive sites can unfortunately keep track of, you know, that, but not because the owner really is necessarily doing that intentionally, but because other people can have it listed. And the issue is, like, I don't know what content they're calling out, but anyway. Jeez. We sought legal advice and unfortunately discovered that French law, specifically Article 617 of Le Poids, la confiance dans l'économie numérique, LSEN, might actually require us to respond and apply blocking measures, at least for French users. See, this is why the French could never win wars. Y'all just giving the towel on anything. Oh, yeah. You have this thing on the internet? No! Not allowed to do that. Surrender. White flag. That's why, you know, like, look. Seems like, what, since Napoleon? Y'all have not been able to get, you know, your motion on a war or anything. Whatever happened to liberty, equality, and fraternity? That said, the whole situation just shows how inadequate this regulation is. Such decisions should be made by a court. A private company shouldn't have to decide what counts as illegal content under threat of legal action. See, that's kind of my sentiment there. I was like, is this an actual, like, government organization? But no, they're not a government organization, so that means anyone can come up to you and basically, you know, accuse you of hosting CSAM to get your stuff taken down just because they don't like it. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of the stories we hear of people saying, well, think of the children, protect the children. Well, the reality is, yes, there are things that definitely should be removed. I'm not gonna, you know, like, say that. But the problem is the think of the children argument has been used so much to invade people's privacy, ruin our rights, and things like that. Like, look at what's going on with the UK right now with the Online Safety Act. Or what they were trying to do with chat control in the EU. You know, in the USA, they have, like, several things they've been trying to do, and it's like, think of the children, basically. And I'm like, isn't this more of a parent's problem? I'm not saying that's the perfect solution, but there is no such thing as a perfect solution. But I don't see why we should be penalizing a bunch of innocent people and have them presumed guilty just because, yeah, anyway. We've gone into that diatribe many times in many different videos. We sent an email to archive.today's contact address and asked 2 simple questions. Can they remove the illegal content from the URLs we were informed about? Is it true that they refused to remove the content in the past, and had they been notified about before? They replied within a few hours. The response was straightforward. The illegal content would be removed, and we verified it was, and they had never received any previous notifications about those URLs. Hold on. So they accused them of that, but maybe they were, like, thinking of another archive site. More of they hinted that Archive Today has been targeted by a campaign of serial complaints, supposedly from French organizations, sent to various companies and institutions that could potentially harm the site. They even shared a link demonstrating a complaint similar to the one we had received. At that point, things were looking increasingly odd, so we decided to dig deeper into the complainant. Ooh, this is getting juicy. Web Abuse Association Defense website references several well-known organizations, Europol, OFAC, NCA, yet provides no details or any evidence of cooperation with them. This is sounding like the Karens that did that, collective shout thing? Yeah. Don't assume Python is enough. You read systems written in Java and C. I haven't really run much Java in years. I don't know why you're talking about Python right now, because we're talking about archive sites. The association itself was registered in February, March of 2025. Interesting. In August 2025, it has just 4 followers, and its feed consists of just a few reposts. That just popped up out of nowhere. This feels like some kind of coordinated attack from, like, some people that were not happy with other content on there. Only 2 of these bailiff reports were ordered by in 2023. Hold on, let me check something. I want to make sure that nope, it's still on my TikTok. Okay. It's like, did it go to the wrong domain? Like, cause yeah, whatever. We couldn't deeper into who exactly is behind WAD. Wait, what's WAD? Did I skip that? No. Okay, what we have in the end. The illegal content was promptly removed from archive.today after we notified them. The complainants against the site look extremely suspicious in our case. They came from an organization that was only recently registered that seems... Yeah, this is all, like, suspicious. And now the FBI is coming up with an investigation at the same time as this situation. That's a little suspicious. I mean... Oh, I don't have the sound anymore. I was gonna do the don't be suspicious. Okay. But yeah, AdGuard apparently did that. What's the next video that my mods wanted me to watch? A video from Brody Robertson. Why are we still fighting about Rust and Linux in 2025?
Greg Crower-Hartman, otherwise known as Greg KH, is generally assumed to be second in command of the Linux kernel. For the past 12 or so years, has been maintainer of the Linux stable branch and the staging subsystem, has had his hand in a number of other subsystems being the maintainer or just generally developer on, and has been involved in the kernel for a considerably longer time than this, and has also been an author on a number of Linux-related books, Linux Device Drivers 3rd Edition, and Linux Kernel in a Nutshell. Basically, if there's someone you should take seriously in the kernel, and that someone is not Linus Torvalds, it's probably going to be Greg Crower-Hartman. And recently he held a talk at the OSS Summit Korea titled Rust and Linux, or Rust in the Linux Kernel. Why? This is a discussion which, even after all of these years of Rust being in the kernel, is still going on.
I don't understand why.
Outside the kernel, even kernel maintainers are still somewhat involved in this discussion. I'm not going to play the entire thing. I'll leave it linked down below if you want to check it out for yourself, but I will play some snippets that I think are important. First,
my understanding is it's a memory-safe language that
is not suffering
maybe
from
we should adopt it more over time.
Developers. If anything, it's the exact opposite of that.
It's a big community. Last year we had almost 5,000 developers, 350 different companies. Every release we have about 200 to 250 brand new developers.
Oh, really?
We have a problem of too many developers. It's a good problem to have. We're not complaining, but we do a lot of work. We have a lot of stuff.
Linux is one of these projects where it's so important, there's so many people involved in it, there's so many things that are built on Linux, that it's not in any position of, you know, just crashing out and dying anytime soon.
Nope.
For that to happen with a project this big, you'd need to see something really big happen, like, you know, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and a bunch of others would have to come together and try to create something that directly...
Careful rewriting stuff that's already written and has been used for years and years.
For now,
oh yeah, I mean, if you have solid programs that don't have vulnerabilities, sure.
Linux kernel because you don't need to worry.
Because ironically, they rewrote the sudo in Rust and it had vulnerabilities.
Volunteers are working on stuff. All of these people are working on the same project. So you can just improve the thing you want to improve and not have to worry about file systems and memory management and all of this other stuff that everyone's going to need anyway. Now, a lot of changes come through the kernel every single year, and the CVE number we see here is a little bit misleading. It says 13 a day. Basically, everything in the kernel gets labeled as a CVE because anything that goes wrong at the kernel level with a monolithic kernel can bring the kernel down.
It's not really that misleading. And I remember when I looked into it, a lot of the CVEs are actual vulnerabilities. Now, the question is, are they all highs or criticals? So anything like with anything that, you know, is a higher critical should definitely be looked at ASAP. If it's a CAV, a known exploited vulnerability, then that should be looked at immediately. That's a stop the presses kind of patch. Who's kernel stronger, Windows 11 or Ubuntu? Well, Ubuntu's just using the Linux kernel, so it'd be a Linux kernel.
And if you bring the kernel down, you bring the entire system down. So technically, it's a security issue, it's a denial of service issue, so I do think they label way too many things as a CVE and kind of make the CVE system not very valuable.
I'd have to do some bigger deeping looking into it, but
a lot of changes are made to Linux because, as a lot of you probably know, Linux runs
a lot of them are CVEs, but they just might be lows.
So many of the devices you interact with, even if you don't use Linux directly, are a Linux-powered device. Whether you have an Android phone, when you interact with a website, it's most likely running on a Linux server. Maybe it's running on Azure, Windows nonsense, but it's probably running on a Linux server. So many things out there. Everything, random embedded devices, powered by Linux. The stereo in your car, very likely powered by Linux. And because of this, it is very important this code is good,
well, the new cars
safe,
probably
sound, and actually doing what you expect it to be doing. A lot of the world relies on this code being good. So here is an example bit of code that is buggy. This is written in C and is from the kernel Bluetooth stack. Now, the problem here is this P right here can sometimes be null. So if you go and dereference P, well, bad things are going to happen because you're dereferencing a null and you're just going to crash the kernel. To fix this, a simple guard clause was added. If P is null, set the error, and then goto unlock. In the kernel, gotos are very common. I know there's lots of discourse about gotos.
I did not really do that much C programming.
We're not getting into gotos today. That's a whole separate video. Basically, unlock is going and cleaning up some resources that are related to this, and because this could crash the kernel, it was labeled with a CVE. This talk is actually from last year, even though it was uploaded about a week ago. This change fixed the issue, and then everyone went about their day. Now here we have another example of buggy code, or at least a patch.
Okay, you got the Zen driver.
Code. In this case, it is doing the check correctly, making sure that this is a valid value. The issue, though, is it's not going to the right location. Instead, it was returning the error when what it should have been doing is doing a goto to fail remove to clean up some resources. Now, in both these cases, you may call this a skill issue. You might say, just write better code and this won't be a problem. Just stop making mistakes. You're a C developer in the kernel. How are you making such basic mistakes like this? You shouldn't be in the kernel. You should
thousands
stop
of people
being
doing
a developer.
commits. That's how.
And you know what? You might be onto something, because modern versions of C actually have a thing called auto unwinding that make it so you don't have to do these weird cleanup things that traditionally you would have to do in C.
Why people
Here's an
telling
example of
themselves they're vulnerable to
the
make
red
money?
code is stuff we've removed, green is what we've added. So
Because
instead of
most
keeping the
people
state,
are
we can just
ethical
say
hackers
guard
and they
the
want to
code
get
below
things
this,
fixed. There
and
are
then
bug
when it
bounties
returns,
out there
it'll
that
clean
you
things
can
up properly
do,
for
but
us. This is good. This is good stuff in the kernel. I don't recommend going and cleaning up the kernel with this because it gets annoying people, but all new code in the kernel should be written like this.
Another reason why he doesn't recommend rewriting everything like this is when you go and blindly refactor things, you're gonna introduce bugs, right? Like, anytime you make a change like this, it's a good change. It's probably a good change if you do it correctly, but you need to do it intentionally so you don't actually cause something else to break.
And most people finding 0 days also just want to add it to their portfolio.
And then having it automatically be cleaned up upon exiting the block. This is good, this makes things cleaner, this makes things better. This makes it so the computer is
I've accidentally introduced memory leaks in production. See, I check parameters, but it's still easy to show mess up something up.
This overall makes the code smaller.
I've made mistakes in Python all the time.
Less chance for there to be problems. It makes it simpler to review. It makes it easier. There's less bugs, and also just makes it more fun. Nobody wants to be chasing down bugs in code they think is correct. And because they don't have a shortage of developers, there is a bottleneck when it comes to reviewing code. Reviewing code is a lot harder than writing code, especially when you're reviewing other people's code. You don't necessarily know exactly how they're approaching a problem, or reviewing your own code and you think the problem is correct because you wrote it, trying to understand what you did wrong with something,
rewrite the
and
Linux
if you
kernel.
did something wrong,
Not uselessly.
it's difficult to separate yourself from the code because you've already thought out the
There's
problem.
optimizations, there's security issues, there's junk code that needs to be just cleaned out.
Code from earlier. This is the same code written in Rust. And it's basically the same thing. There's a few syntax differences, but the important distinction is this question mark right here. This is basically saying, if this returns an error, exit out, there is something wrong here.
Oh,
Don't
interesting.
proceed any further.
And if you don't put that question mark in there, the compiler will complain and not build. And that's the key. Rust lets us express things in code that if the code is wrong, it just won't compile.
Which means you, as the developer, immediately know it's wrong.
If me as a maintainer gets a patch from you and written in Rust...
I've not really written in Rust or C, so...
You did the logic right.
But I've done
Obviously,
PI
you can
tests
still
all the
make logic
time.
errors in Rust. What he's saying is you're not mishandling a value that is coming from a thing like this. You're not randomly just including an error value when an error value shouldn't be possible.
That saves me reviewing time and it makes things easier.
That's the important thing. Again, there is a bottleneck on reviewers. There is not a bottleneck on changes. There would be a lot more changes brought into the kernel if they had more people reviewing code. They just have so many developers, and it's increasing every single time that you just cannot keep up with the number of changes when you have to deal with patches where...
And you don't necessarily trust everyone to review code.
That another tool would not be possible to include that same breakage. And the same thing applies to a lock. The only way to get access to this data is by grabbing the lock, otherwise the compiler is going to complain. And if the compiler is complaining, you immediately know you've done something wrong.
And by doing that, when you're done with the data, it'll free the lock. That, again, is enforcing a pattern in the compiler, in the code itself, making it easier for us to do stuff. Between those two things, checking error values and handling lock properly and resource stuff, that I'm guessing, I say, is about 60% of all the security bugs in the kernel. Somebody told me I was wrong, and they think that's about 80%.
And remember,
Really? Either way,
Greg
it's a
isn't just
good
some
chunk.
random person talking here. Greg is kind of the security guy. Like, he is very deeply involved in that part of the kernel. Back to this slide. That is a lot of wasted time when you have to deal with all of these changes and you don't know if they're actually handling that data correctly. You are going to let things slip through, and you're going to have to deal with those problems. And that
Happens
is
all the time.
a ton of wasted time nobody wants to deal with. Rust can make reviewing code easier, enforce validation of untrusted data, enforce memory lifetime rules, enforce locking rules, enforce error handling, and enforce type safety. Now, you can say, oh,
I didn't know it
wanna
let you
have
do all that. I
kernel
knew about
rules
the
that
memory
outline
safety.
how to handle data in C. And they have that. They have kernel documentation. They have all of this good stuff that explains how to handle things within the kernel, to do things in a safe way. They have code style guides. All of this stuff any sensible project should have. But people make mistakes and reviewers miss things. And if you can eliminate an entire class of bugs that is the majority of your security bugs in the kernel, from a security perspective, that seems like a no-brainer. However,
I think
it's not without its flaws, and this
Google
is just
said they
inherent
reduced
to
like
doing
their
programming.
year-over-year
But
CVEs,
Rust
like
is
what,
not a
30,
silver
40%
bullet.
just
It's not
switching to
gonna
Rust?
save all our bugs. Everybody says it's memory safe. Well, memory safe is interesting. Memory safe means if you do something wrong, your code will just crash, which in the kernel is not good. That's still CVE. So here's some code that you can write, C code, crash wonderfully.
For anyone who's not a programmer, what it's doing is accessing data after the end of an array.
It's a logic error. See, Rust, this is Rust code. If you access this thing, I'm going to run off the end of an array. Rust will check that, catch that at runtime, and go, you didn't know what was going on, crash, you're gone. And that's good. At least we're crashing. We're not accessing memory in an illegal way that would allow you to have a security vulnerability. Rebooting the machine is still a vulnerability. It's still a denial of service, but it's not a bad one. So
It's a issue where rather than continuing to run in
It's an
error
availability
state,
issue.
when there
That's
is an
why it's a
error,
CVE.
it dies.
That makes sense.
And when you're dealing with memory safety, when you don't want things to be able to do, you know, arbitrary code injections, read off the end of arrays.
I think a lot of
access
people
data they
forget
shouldn't
that
be able to
availability
access,
is a concern of
crashing when
cybersecurity
this
too.
happens is a better thing to do. Obviously, it's not good, and you don't want the kernel to crash. But crashing is better than running in that state.
Crashing is never
Now,
good
none of
unless
this
you're
is
in Crash
suggesting something
Bandicoot.
that hasn't been tried before. Today, there is 35 million lines of C code in the kernel, roughly 65,000 lines in Rust. That doesn't mean you're running all of that on your system. A lot of this is for hardware that you're not using. It's random legacy nonsense.
Yeah.
It's RISC-V. It's GPUs that you're not using. It's Wi-Fi chips for the PS3. Things obviously you don't have in your system. So the
If you ever
average
customize your
computer
Linux kernel,
runs about 2
you'll see
million
how
lines of
much
that on
junk
their
you can
system.
remove.
A server is a bit less because a server is generally a much simpler system, and a phone is about double a desktop at about 3.5 to 4 million lines of code. And you want a real-world example of something in the kernel right now that is written in Rust. So, are you aware of the kernel blue screen thing? I guess this one is black, sometimes it's blue. They've changed it a number of times. When you have a kernel panic, there is going to be a QR code that appears. This is in Rust.
Really?
This is in Rust. This is something that is in your kernel right now. That is Rust. I think the space that has most picked up Rust development in the kernel is the GPU driver space. There is a lot of new drivers being written in Rust, old drivers being ported over to Rust, because for graphics, it just seems like a better way to handle things. Another thing that I
guess.
recently
Makes
discussed on this
sense.
channel is the binder driver from Google. This is very involved in Android. It's not something you're running usually on your regular desktop. Technically, it's not a Google project. It's just Google is the only consumer of it, so it is in the upstream kernel. But this was recently rewritten into Rust.
change, you guys have seen people complaining about Rust. Change is hard. But if we don't change, we will not succeed because the world keeps changing. And that's okay. Not everybody has to convert. We're not going to write new existing code today in the kernel. I'm not going to rewrite it in Rust.
If people want to do so, they can do it, but there's not just going to be this mass rewrite that's going to be forced upon people.
But new stuff can do it.
Makes
We can
sense.
offer the opportunity to do this stuff. And that's good. If we don't change, we won't succeed. But Rust also lets us reevaluate the C code. And that's good. Our APIs sometimes are really hard to use. Like I talked in the beginning, you look at code that's been there like, what? Who wrote this? This is horrible. Oh, I wrote this. Well, you learn over time that your APIs were wrong. Rust lets us revisit that and rewrite the APIs. If Rust were to disappear today, our C code is better for it. They've made us reevaluate a number of our APIs and rewrite things, fix things up, make things more secure, make things more easy to use.
Because if you want to interact with the C code from Rust, there's some assumptions that need to be sort of properly ironed out. You can't just have things work as haphazardly as they did. By introducing a language like Rust, it forces you to actually do things in a more correct way.
And it can make, as a
may have to
maintainer, I'm very happy to
play
see
with
this
Rust
makes my
and
life much easier.
at
It can
least
make
understand
easier.
it.
If it builds,
I keep
it's going to work.
seeing
for the
it
most
and-
part. That's a very big hurdle. That's
Not that I expect to
doesn't
write
have
in
it.
Rust for a lot of things, but
And if you can
should
introduce
at least understand
a
it.
way where you don't have to worry about as much of the code, you can introduce more changes into the kernel. You can make more improvements to the kernel because you're not wasting as much time dealing with nonsense.
make the compiler do the work, and that's the key. We have the tools. Let's rely on those. So it makes Rust more fun for maintainers, and I'm very happy to see that. And it makes it more secure for Linux and for users, and that's more important for you guys, and that's great. And as always, world domination is proceeding perfectly. Thank you.
I am so happy you included that part. I'm so happy you included that part. And at the same event, Linus Torvalds also spoke on the matter.
But having been around for so long with tens, hundreds of maintainers that have been around for decades.
I know I need to play with Rust, but
People
see,
kind
it's so
of
much
get stuck
fun.
in
Rust
a
is a
rut,
bit of
and sometimes
seemingly
you
good learning
want
resource.
to
Yeah, I
shake
know
things
Yitz has
up
been
and
playing
say,
with it.
"Hey, we're going to try this new thing," and I'm the person who says, "Okay, we'll go ahead." And
Look at this
I mean,
dude down here.
I'm giving Rust as an example of that, even though we've been doing Rust now.
There's
for about
another
5
dude with the
years, so
phone.
it's not exactly new, but it was something where I felt that the kernel shouldn't stagnate, and we needed to do something new and bring in new people. So that's one thing that has changed for me, is that I actually feel like sometimes I need to encourage some of the other maintainers to be more open to new ideas.
Yeah, Rust was exactly one of the examples I was going for. And one of the things that I've noticed is that even though it's been around now for 5 years and with actual code in the kernel maybe for 3,
Found out the
it certainly
Roadcaster is a
created some
multi-virtual
noise. We
channel
had
for game and
people
music and settings, so I've
expressing
enabled it. Oh yeah, I've played with that on mine.
arguments about the formatting. There have been arguments about
It's a very
reviewing
powerful
code
mixer, that's why I got it.
in your language that you're comfortable with. We even had maintainers step down over this. So is it worth it? Is the introduction of new technologies worth the disruption to our processes?
I think it's worth it, but I also think that, yes, Rust has generated a lot of press, maybe, because it's a very visible part of the kernel. And I mean, Rust is obviously visible in other areas too. But at the same time,
I know,
mean,
I
we have
noticed
disagreements
Rust on
in
many different
pretty much
objects.
every area of the kernel. It's part of the process of doing new development and finding bugs, and people sometimes get quite animated when they want to make their point.
Now I find it interesting that he's
And I don't
so
think Rust in that sense
okay
has been
with
all
Rust
that
when he was
different
so
from many other
opinionated about,
areas.
what was it, C++?
It's just that it maybe gathered some more news. We're finally at the point, I think maybe Greg will talk about that. Who knows? He follows that more
I think this talk may have happened before Greg's talk. I'm not sure.
than I do, where Rust is actually becoming a real part of the kernel instead of being this experimental thing. But it did take
And my
longer
TikTok
than I was
live got restricted again
So, and I mean,
for directing people
Isn't
to
it nice
products
to hear
off the
someone
site.
just have a calm and leveled take about Rust? It's like, we want to experiment with this.
I gotta
we want to
email my
see
rep.
what this can improve. Let's just go forward with it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and we'll move on from there, basically. This talk isn't just about Rust, but I will leave it linked down below as well. I do highly recommend you go and check it out. It's always nice to see Linus and Dirk talking it out. There's lots of fun things that always come from these talks. The discussion of Rust in the kernel is not going to die down anytime soon. This is going to be something where, honestly, I expect 10 years from now, we're still going to be talking about it. Like we did with Pulse Audio. Is my camera not focused? Whatever, the video's ending now. Like we do with System D. There's always going to be people arguing about this, but hopefully, regardless of the arguing, things improve in a good direction. This is how I try to focus my camera, by the way. Sometimes I turn it on and off and it focuses. It's not doing it right now. Okay, I'll just restart the camera. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below, especially if you're a kernel developer, whether it's like a very active developer or just a couple of patches here and there. Let me know what your thoughts are about bringing Rust into the kernel, and if you happen to be someone who is
but C++
working Rust in
is
the
C++.
kernel, how has that changed?
I don't know what
your
that
work?
even means.
Or if not Rust in the kernel, Rust in some other sort of project, and maybe not Rust. Maybe bring in a language
but music
like
and game
Z
sound is not showing
or
up in
Go
sound
or
settings on
something
PC,
else,
but it's on the
and
road.
moving things away from entirely being C. I would love to know
You
your
may have to
thoughts.
play with the
So let me
channel
know
routing.
down below. If you like the video, go like the video. If you want to go subscribe, do that as well. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of...
Yep. Also, I just emailed my TikTok rep because TikTok apparently is now restricting my, live. Basically saying, hey, if you, are showing other what is it? Your live is not eligible for recommendation and is restricted in search results because it redirects users to purchase products outside of TikTok. What products did I, like, direct you all to this stream? We talked about the Steam machine, which isn't even available. Talked about the frame. We talked about phones. And people wonder why I say TikTok is not my primary streaming platform. I'd much rather be bigger on YouTube or something than I would on TikTok. Because I'm tired of their BS. But anyway, next video. Probably going to reset the TikTok stream over there. Getting out of hand. That's why I don't use TikTok for streaming and videos. Yeah, and if it wasn't for the fact that I actually have a actual rep and insider inside at TikTok that helps manage these things, that's why when you saw me like looking down, I was literally emailing her saying, "Hey, it happened again," because she told me she was looking into it. Linux makes me feel stupid, and that makes me angry. Angry makes me not want to use it, even if it's objectively better. No, it's not. If anything, Windows and Mac actually treat you like you're stupid. Linux is the one that's actually saying, "Hey, you have all this power, you have all these tools, you can do all these things with it. Do what you want to do." Whereas Windows and Mac especially, treats you like you're a moron, and that you don't know what's good for you, or that you shouldn't do this over there. It's rather patronizing. Linux is actually a lot easier to understand, by the way, than Windows and Mac. And let me put it this way. A lot of people will fight me on that, but I'm like, you have to understand, you grew up using Windows probably your whole life, that you think it's intuitive, but it was learned behavior that you had first. If you give a computer with Linux, Mac, or Windows in front of a person and say, "I need you to understand how this works," then you'll understand that Linux is a lot easier to wrap your head around. TikTok will delete you off your platform for anything. They're so anti-free speech. Well, I also saw my buddy Signe. He got banned from TikTok for a couple days. I had to, along with a few other people, pull some strings, or at least, go to TikTok. I think it was actually his appeal that finally went through, but I did at least put a word in saying, hey, he was doing PowerShell videos. There was nothing wrong. Restore him. But that's the reason why a lot of tech creators don't do tech content as deep as we did. I used to do some really, really in-depth things. And that's why I tell people, go to my YouTube. Go to my Twitch stream. Or even Kick. But yeah. I understand my ability to brick laptops out of pure incompetence. Well, that's not going to change whether it's on Windows, Mac, or Linux if you do something like that. But it also could be... I've seen a lot of people say that and ends up buying that they're buying, like, laptops that are known issues, like, Acer.
Holy crap, Lois, it's actually the downfall of Windows happening right before our eyes. Just days after one of their execs got absolutely ganked on Twitter for suggesting that the operating system would turn into
TikTok
an AI
is so
agent
weird with
that
their
acts on
reports.
behalf, they dropped the update that makes it official. Experimental agentic actions are now possible on the Beta 11 build, and it can access your whole system if you
What the fuck?
let it. The goal is that you don't have to do much besides tell it what to do, and it goes and fetches your files and calculates your MMR or whatever it is that you people do.
This should not be built into an operating system.
Is saying that this is a major security concern, but instead of
You think?
launching it or figuring out a way to help prevent these issues, they just tell you not to enable this feature if you don't understand the security risks. And even though
You're telling the same people not to enable this stuff that go ahead and disable security things because they think it's going to get them some more FPS in a game. Or because, this one file can't run and they don't understand why. It turns out it's because it's malware, it's getting blocked. I've seen that. I've seen it.
it is off by default at this point, given that they've been enabling other AI features out of the box and making some others mandatory for their programs, who knows how long until they make this a feature you can't get rid of, like OneDrive. I never believed in the year of the Linux PC until Microsoft decided that their future was half-tested, barely understood neural nets that can't even fix their own dang search bar. Holy crap, Lois, it's actually...
The honest truth is, I wouldn't be opposed to Microsoft having AI features if they were an optional feature. Let me put it this way. When I want to install Hyper-V, the Windows hypervisor to run virtual machines on Windows Pro, okay? I have to go in, enable the feature, install it, and then reboot my computer. It's in the Programs and Features section. Microsoft should have put all this AI crap there. It should not be a base level thing. My computer out of the box should not be monitoring what I do and then recording everything I do in an unsafe way. And it especially shouldn't have agentic AI features out the box that allow an AI to do things programmatically inside your computer. If I were going to ever do that in a system, an agentic system, I would build another box like I am doing that will do agentic actions. But when it comes to my own system, I want full control. I want to know my machine is my own machine. The issue that I have with Microsoft, and this has been for a while, is Microsoft is feeling more like malware. I don't know how else to put it. At best, it feels like you're renting your machine from Microsoft, but it's not necessarily your machine. My buddy has been having an issue trying to get Windows 11 installed on his old hardware because for some reason the FTPM on his motherboard is not working. I am helping him out, try to get a regular TPM discrete chip on there, and TPM isn't even really making things more secure. I wish we could go back to the old-fashioned BIOS. Go get away from all of this stuff. But Microsoft pushed for UEFI and other things. And they've been doing this for years. There's a reason why I switched to Linux years ago. And it's because I saw the writing on the wall that Microsoft was going off the rails. I didn't know they would go Thelma and Louise right off the cliff with it. What the hell? Microsoft is a user data mining malware. Exactly. That's what it's feeling like. It makes no sense whatsoever why Microsoft is putting these features in. And to what this guy was saying, they don't fix their own search bar. I don't like Windows 11. I don't. I just reinstalled it on a stupid laptop that I needed to get set up for my stupid school to get my stupid bachelor's degree, because I'm going back to school. And I had to get a Windows laptop because of the proctoring software and all that they're going to be doing. So I got a spare laptop that I had laying around, little Lenovo IdeaPad, had to jump through so many freaking hurdles just to get it installed. Oh, I had to turn off, like, what is it, Intel LVD, so that, you know, the trackpad would even work. No, it was actually so I could see the disc, but the trackpad was a side effect. And then I had to install Windows. Then I had to install it, and, like, originally I was trying to reinstall with the Windows 11 home key that was built in the system. Like, no. I have an enterprise key. So I had to modify the USB flash drive to even just put a basic Pro version in there to then upgrade to enterprise from that key. And then while I'm on that computer, brand new laptop, it's already eating like more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. Some of you that might seem like, oh, that's not a lot. This little mini PC that I have running here, okay? Sure, it doesn't have a GUI. Let's say if it had a GUI, it'd be like what? 5, 6, 7, 800 megabytes more. It's running Ubuntu Server Edition. It's running the entire Grafana stack, 2 InfluxDB databases, taking that data in. Look how little CPU that Core i7 has. That's a 10th gen. Look how little. Okay, right now it's ingesting data. But look how little that's using. And this Windows PC over here, out the box is 4 gigabytes. For what? Like, I had to upgrade that laptop from its 8 to the max 12 it could take, just so I could have some breathing room for a Chrome tab. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, let's go on to the next video, though. Oh, God. What did you get? What did you put on? You're really going to make me feel old with this one, aren't you, Vampire?
What makes a game retro? According to the internet, it needs to be at least a decade or older. Cool! The Witcher 3 is a decade old. Stop. Black Ops 2 is 13 years old.
God damn it!
Why are you doing this? Modern Warfare 2 is 16. It's old enough to drive.
I hate you.
Shut up. These don't count. Minecraft is also 16. That's
oh, for frick's sake!
I just listed are retro. Anything else you want to add? GTA San Andreas came out 21 years ago.
There's my 13 reasons. There's my 13 reasons.
My childhood is retro! In addition, Skyrim came out 14 years ago.
God damn it!
Fallout New Vegas came out 15 years ago. Mass Effect came out 16 years ago. Battlefield 3 came out 14 years ago. Uncharted came out 18 years ago. Oblivion came out 19 years ago. Also, Halo 3 came out 18 years ago. What makes a game retro?
I need to go drinking after that one. I hate Windows 11 as well. Windows 10 was more friendly to find settings. Now they're hidden away. Windows 10 was actually not that, you know, friendly either. 7 was okay. But Windows has really never been that friendly. My retro game has to be Left 4 Dead. You hear your childhood as supermarket background. I go into supermarkets and now my music that I grew up with is playing on the, you know, speakers. I remember when my parents were going around and it was like, oh yeah, I'm jamming to this. And I'm like, I should not be jamming out while I am getting my potatoes. Okay, we got another article here. The 90s are oldies. You shut your mouth! You shut your mouth! The 90s are not oldies! Disco is oldies! Grunge is not oldies! Wu-Tang is not oldies! Wu-Tang is for the children! There's a reason why I support Valve that is heavily investing into Linux. Gaming on Linux is way easier now because of them. Oh, I totally agree. That's why I would gladly give them money. Why is Linkin Park classic rock? You shut your mouth, Abby! Linkin Park is not classic! It is new metal! I'm so drinking. Okay, HP and Dell disable HEVC support built into their laptop CPUs. Wait, what? What? I did not know this was a thing! So you're telling me there's a license that actually goes with HEVC decoding that is now being disabled on HP and Dell? How are they doing this? Okay, laptops with 6th generation Intel Core and later processors have built-in hardware support for HEVC in decoding and encoding. Okay, AMD has laptop chips supporting the codec since 2015. However, both Dell and HP have disabled this feature on some of their popular business notebooks. Wait, what? Are these on the new ones? These must be the new ones. Yeah, these are the new ones. Huh. Hardware acceleration for codec H.265, HEVC, and coverage is coding. It's disabled on this platform, the note read. What? Despite this notice, it can still be jarring to see a modern laptop's web browser eternally load videos that play in media players. As a member of a group... play easily in media players as a member of the group for system administrators on Reddit recalled recently. People with older hardware were not experiencing problems, whereas these newer machines needed to either have the HEVC codec from Microsoft Store removed entirely from Microsoft Media Foundation or have hardware acceleration disabled in their web browser web app, which causes a number of other problems, feature degradations. For example, no background blurring in conference programs, significantly degraded system performance. Wow. This information isn't that easy to find. For example, the products which is the HEVC, there's no mention of it. Huh. Identifiable information comes from a general supports page that explains that Dell laptops only support HEVC content streaming on computer configurations with an optional discrete graphics card, an optional add-on video card, an integrated 4K display panel, Dolby Vision, and a CyberLink Blu-ray player. Huh. Representatives couldn't respond. They explain the company blah blah blah. Check with your preferred video player for HEVC software support, but why are they disabling it? While HP's and Dell's, it's possible that the OEMs are looking to minimize costs since OEMs pay some of or all of the licensing fees associated with HEVC. The OEM's disabling codec hardware also comes in. So why is it the system builder if this is a codec that's on the CPU? I'm a little bit confused. Never liked Dell anyway. Never been a company's to let you put your own hardware inside there. Dell used to be great. Dude, should have got a Dell. That was the ad. HP has gotten better, but I mean, everything will get crappier in pursuit of profit. Welcome to the enshittification of the world. What are the brands that is a Linux supportive as Valve? I want to start supporting the brands. So you can definitely get like so I've talked a lot about System 76 and their devices. Tuxedo Computers is right here. Tuxedo Computers, System 76, both very supportive of Linux. I mean, System 76 and Tuxedo make their own operating systems for Linux. I use Pop! OS, though, from System 76 on this Tuxedo laptop. There is Nova Custom. That's another company I'm looking at to replace my Purism laptop because they haven't been upgrading the hardware specs for a while. DaVinci Resolve, if you do video content creation. DaVinci is supportive of Linux. You can install it on any Linux. You may just have to get it repackaged or, grab the tarball, do the install thing. But it works on Linux. You may need an NVIDIA GPU still for that. I don't know if they got over the you can use AMD stuff. Yeah, there's a growing number of companies that are supporting Linux fully. Okay. Next video. The console killer, the Steam machine.
Okay, there's been an interesting development with the Steam machine that, if true, I think is good news for all of us. This is it, by the way. Well, kind of. It's actually a 3D printed Steam machine, but it's a 1-to-1 scale model, so the sizing is what you can expect when this thing finally releases.
That's a nice little size for it.
Xbox, a small form factor PC. I mean, it's pretty tiny, and as someone who's been doing small form factor builds for a couple years now, this really excites me.
Okay, if that's the size of it, I kind of want one for the home theater.
The PC parts market right now, but there's actually been an interesting development here. The YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead actually made a great video breaking down the Steam machine specs, and their estimated pricing for all of the parts is roughly $425. So assuming that's accurate, depending on the margins they'd want to get for this, if it's similar to something like the Steam Deck, for example, we could see this for around $600. I don't think that's out of the question, and that would be pretty awesome. Now, in terms of performance you get for that price, it's kind of close to a base PS5.
600, 700 bucks.
To play AAA titles on this thing, it might struggle a little bit, but if you're more of a casual gamer, this should be totally fine. I'm really excited for this. Of course, I'll be picking one up when it comes out for review, but if anything changes in the meantime, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I actually like the size of it. I thought it was like a little bit bigger, but yeah, that's actually a nice form factor. And if it does only end up being like $600-700 bucks, I actually might consider getting one, depending on the specs, because it might be a nice little server box. I wonder what would happen if Linux took over Windows and no one used Windows anymore. You would start seeing Microsoft Office Windows for Linux. Let's get a couple more videos in before we call it a night, though. So, we've got our Linux news video from the Linux experiment. NVIDIA focuses on Linux. EU caves to big tech. Linux Weekly News.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to your Linux and open source news show. This week we have some good news about NVIDIA. They're finally focusing on Linux with contributing to an open source driver, but also trying to implement more stuff that are standards that everyone agrees upon to try and help the Linux desktop as a whole, which is good. We also have the EU, unfortunately, looking like
they're doing that because they see AMD was chosen for the Steam machine, and they're going to see their market share kind of get eaten.
Is going to take a big hit if these proposals are adopted. And we also have plenty of stuff on Linux distros, desktop environments, web browsers, and Linux gaming. And we also have this message from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. They are your all-in-one platform to create, publish, and manage.
Okay, nothing against Squarespace. Yes, they're kind of good. I know a few people that use them. They're okay. I just want to get through the video.
Okay, so let's begin with NVIDIA. They started contributing to the Nova open source driver that Red Hat started a while back.
Oh, really?
Timur Tabi, one of their engineers, they've sent 11 patches that add Turing support for that Nova driver, which adds to the already existing Ampere support. Of course, it uses the GSP firmware that all recent NVIDIA cards rely upon, and that contains most of the actual code to run these cards. The driver generally just calls to code that is inside that GSP firmware. Now, these patches let Turing GPUs boot and start accessing that GSP firmware, although of course it is early days and it requires the latest Linux firmware from Git, but at least it means that GeForce 16 and 20 series should be supported with Nova alongside series 30, 40 and 50, which is really nice. Now, this driver is far from ready. I think we are a few years away from having that as the default instead of Nouveau, but it is still very good to see NVIDIA actually contributing to it and making it better. Maybe it opens a future where most people can just use Nova and NVK on Linux, and people who really need professional support or commercial support or a supported official driver can use the NVIDIA one instead. It would be wonderful, and I think it is a really good sign to see NVIDIA finally opening up to Linux and not trying to do their stuff in
I remember when Linus Torvalds gave the middle finger to NVIDIA.
They gave a presentation at XDC, the developer conference, where they talked about fragmentation in the Direct Rendering Manager subsystem on Linux, also called DRM, not to be confused with Digital Rights Management, the
That's what I was thinking it was with DRM.
Every single format of file. No, this is the system that displays stuff on screen on Linux. NVIDIA argued for more unification on that front. As an example, there are 57 DRM drivers in the kernel that support frame buffer device emulation. That's an API relying on a compatibility layer to display stuff on screen. But for example, only 14 drivers support the new blue screen of death feature that the Linux kernel offers. The issue is, those two features and APIs should rely on the exact same mechanisms to draw stuff on screen, but each seems to be re-implementing ways of doing the exact same thing.
Why?
It's extra work for developers to actually support that feature set. NVIDIA is thus arguing for more unification, so calls can be reused between, for example, FBdev emulation and the DRM kernel panic.
I thought they would have had it unified to begin with.
Duplicating stuff in both. They also pointed to various issues in Wayland screencasting support in the compositors and the applications, like the fact that a GUI interaction is needed to choose what you want to share, which prevents automation. Clients also aren't able to request a specific screen or window to screencast automatically. Sessions are not necessarily restorable, and the lack of pre-permissions is also an issue. It would let users say, always allow screencasting for app X on screen Y or for Windows Z. Of course, this is technical underlying stuff, but they do have a point. If the goal is to draw something on screen, it probably should be done in one single way. Now, I find it kind of funny that NVIDIA is now the one arguing for more unification when for a long while they completely ignored the standards set by other people and tried to build their own version of it, which obviously nobody adopted, and then they ended up moving to the right standard, especially for their Wayland support, for example. As per Wayland screencasting, they're right, there are plenty of little issues like that. For example, me, I use OBS, I have 3 scenes, 2 of which use a screen share, and I get asked every single time I reopen OBS which window or screen I want to screencast, and that's super boring to do. It's quick, not a big problem, but it is annoying, and I wish it could remember preferences. I'm not sure if it's an OBS thing or a Wayland thing, but it needs to be fixed. And to conclude on our NVIDIA segment, this is about NVK, so not from NVIDIA this time. It's the Vulkan driver that is being created by Collabora, mostly by Faith Extrend. And there's a lot of work happening on that driver as well. For example, they added Vulkan 1.4 features. They also worked on Cooperative Matrix, which is an AI and machine learning extension for Vulkan. And mostly they've been working on improving the driver's performance, working on adding real latency, better scheduling, better memory access, and image compression. But some of these changes will require modifications to Nouveau, which, according to Faith, is barely keeping the lights on right now, meaning this driver is just not seeing a lot of attention and a lot of work because resources are just too limited in the numbers of developers that can dedicate time to Nouveau. Still, they shared a graph, and it seems like in the games that they tested, NVK reached about 50% of the performance of the proprietary driver. I would assume that's NVK plus Nouveau. Although with image compression enabled, some games went much higher than that. Tested games include Subnautica, Age of Empires 4, Atomic Heart, Deep Rock Galactic, or XCOM 2. Now, the next steps for this NVK driver will be finishing
still not near the proprietary
Vulkan video
driver.
support for good hardware-accelerated video decoding, fixing Zinc bugs as well to make sure that OpenGL support is good while using NVK as the driver, And of course, there's also improving performance to catch up with the official NVIDIA drivers. This is absolutely fantastic to see. If that driver relying on that old Nouveau driver can give 50% of the official driver performance, that's good. If with image compression it sometimes reaches 70 or 80%, then that's really, really good as well. And I would expect that when Nova hits the Linux kernel and becomes the default driver or becomes actually usable, this performance will shoot up as well, because Nouveau has to deal with a lot of legacy stuff and older NVIDIA GPUs, where Nova can just focus on the newer ones. It's amazing work, and I cannot wait to be rid of that official NVIDIA driver and just use stuff that is in Mesa, in the kernel. It's gonna be great. Now, the EU is preparing something they call the Digital Omnibus, which has some good implications and some very, very bad ones. The good implication is maybe the end of cookie banners, because, of course, there are some new rules coming, most notably allowing users to set
that would be nice, because I'm annoyed by the cookie banner.
Level. So you could set in your browser settings, always refuse non-essential cookies. And when you visit a website, they query this preference, they get told, no, you can't have non-essential cookies, and then you don't even see a banner. Websites have to follow that preference or face sanctions. That's fantastic. The problem is, initially, this will not be the case. The rules will just be simplified, so cookie banners will change to a yes or no option, which is obviously worse for general privacy than the current system, because while the current solution of those convoluted banners full of dark patterns really suck, it still lets you configure what you don't want to be collected or stored. And the new solution doesn't give you that at all until that browser preference is implemented. But the main problem is, this digital omnibus has been widely criticized for being a big privacy regression and basically just deregulation. The main point of contention would be letting any AI actor train on personal user data if it is justified, but this leaves a lot of leeway to companies to try and find a justification, and this means that AI actors that already collected personal data and trained on that will not have to start from scratch or revise their model at all. This is already a big problem, because when you start including personal data in AI models, you open the door to mass surveillance and profiling.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
God damn, that's just horrible.
So it absolutely is a way to strip people of privacy. Also, a lot of the protections that were added on top of the GDPR framework are going to be moved into that GDPR framework, which is a lot more flexible. It leaves company a lot of leeway. It provides a lot of exceptions for company to take advantage of, to say, yes, but we really do need this information and we do need to keep it for longer because it is for legitimate interest. It is in exchange of people accessing the website. It is for managing their preferences. And so you're gonna see a lot less privacy online if this is passed. Fortunately, it is just a proposal. It can still be refused. Most privacy enthusiasts and privacy-focused organizations are really emphasizing that this is a huge step back for privacy in the EU. This is being passed as something
I don't know what's with the EU lately, just like wanting to take apart privacy and digital rights.
The general world stage, but obviously this will also benefit all the giant big tech companies which have the means to collect all of that, to defend the choices that they make, arguing that yes, they did collect that for good reason, and so this is virtually just a big fat gift to Microsoft, Apple, Meta, Amazon, and the likes. It absolutely sucks. Hopefully it gets voted down. Now let's move on to more fun stuff. First, there's a new prototype to better handle online accounts in KDE. Right now, if you look at online accounts on Plasma, Nextcloud, OwnCloud, Google, and Open Desktop are your only options. The issue is most of these things do not permeate to the entire desktop and applications. Only Dolphin uses the Nextcloud and OwnCloud integrations. The Google account isn't used at all, apart from one application that lets you upload videos to YouTube directly.
That's it?
Google even blocks access to Google Drive through Dolphin, for example. So basically, even if you set up one of these accounts, none of your emails, contacts, calendars, notes, to-dos, whatever, will be synced with any app on KDE, which absolutely sucks. There's also no Mastodon account, no Matrix support, and plenty of other accounts could also be added. Basically, this thing is not very useful right now, and also it doesn't even work properly with sandboxed apps. So there's
as I get older, that seems more appealing.
With the daemon and with dbus, apps needing to be granted access to each specific account to be able to access their data, similar to what portals do on our modern desktops. The daemon handles the login flow from the account's database to the application, and right now this prototype handles Nextcloud, which is now integrated in KDE's PIM software, so Kmail, Calendar, Contacts, and the like.
Nice.
It also handles Mastodon, which integrates for now with Tocodon, the Mastodon client for KDE. And it also handles Google accounts, which is also handled by KDE's personal information management apps, so Contact, Calendar,
I don't know if I want
and
Google
Kmail,
connected to my
meaning
Linux
if you
box,
set up
but
that
that's just
account,
me.
you actually get the information of that account in the applications that should use that. It is a much, much better way of doing things. Hopefully it gets more useful and gets more account types as time goes on. This is a big ease of use feature.
What's next? They're going to add Microsoft support for your Microsoft account in Linux?
Their own through Nextcloud, or their companies with Exchange or Microsoft accounts, or whether it is Google, and integrating that in just one simple login in your settings.
I guess you would want Microsoft support for Enterprise.
Access that stuff if you let them. That's just way more useful than having to retype all that.
I used to run Teams on my Linux box
that you want to
for
use
my meetings
that
and
might
stuff.
Want access to your emails, contacts, calendar, and more. And it's also not really a problem on Linux because you know those apps are open source, you know the code is auditable, and if these things did something really weird with your account data, probably people would know. Now, it looks like Zorin OS 18 was a major hit, reporting 1 million downloads in a single month, which is pretty huge.
Interesting.
It was just 100,000 downloads in the first 48 hours, so things have moved extremely fast for the distribution.
Xbox app work on
This might
Linux
include
games?
many
No, it does
people
not.
frustrated with Windows 10's end of life, and also the fact that Windows 11 is
least
a
not that I
frankly
know of.
horrible operating system, but it could also include people who ran Zorin OS 17, because there is no real upgrade path yet. They started testing it experimentally, but apparently it is extremely broken and should not be used yet. So I guess many users just downloaded the new ISO and reinstalled over the previous system. This upgrade path will definitely be sorted out at some point, but if you really don't want to
Didn't know they
reinstall
didn't have an
them, you'll
upgrade
have
path.
to be patient. And on another note, I wish more distributions shared their download numbers. They do have them. When you download something of the website, you can collect you can increment an anonymous tracker to know how many people downloaded from each mirror. You can have the same thing for a torrent. The only thing that's harder to track is in-place upgrades, because you would have to track the download count of maybe one specific package that is included in the upgrade, and you have to assure people that you're not collecting any personal data, including any IP address.
Just collect
That's
it in
a
the
bit more
aggregate
difficult,
and
but having
anonymize
at least
it.
the download numbers of an ISO would be a huge help. Right now, all we have to measure popularity is DistroWatch, and this is completely not representative because it's just based on vibes and hype and how many people talk about a specific distro, not actually how many people use it. Now, another week, another Mozilla-related blunder. They're developing an API to let AI developers automate web navigation through their AI tool. This is called Tabs, and what it offers is a way for companies developing chat.
Mozilla! You were the chosen one! You were supposed to fight the dark side, not become part of it! So when's Ladybird and Servo starting to become a thing? Because I want alternatives to Firefox and Chrome at this point. I'm still using Firefox, don't get me wrong. I mean, even if I switch to Zen Browser or Florp, which I've played with a little bit, I still am going to be using a Firefox engine, and the same issue as I would be using a Chromium engine with all the other browsers. It'd be nice if there was the Servo engine and the Ladybird starts to come in more production, but yeah.
bots or large language models to let those models take over.
His own version of
browsing,
Microsoft Visual C++.
scrolling, searching on the web page,
Visual
filling
C++?
forms, submitting those
Like
forms, and all
the
of that
Studio
jazz.
app?
Basically
No.
giving the AI
We
all
just
the
have
info
VS
about
Studio
a page
code.
to let the AI navigate.
I don't know
that
if you can
page
do
and
stuff
then
in
give
that. I'm not a
feedback
C
on what
person.
the web page is doing after the AI implemented a few actions. It's basically agentic web browsing. The free tier of this API will give developers about 1,000 requests per month, which is going to work for personal stuff or some testing, and then judging from the website, it's going to be $5 per 1,000 requests, although I would be surprised if there wasn't a discounted plan if you have a lot more requests or if you need a lot more requests. Other potential features will include reduced latency to access the API and also CAPTCHA solving, which is a nightmare.
I'll probably play with it, but I'll be bitching along the way. I'm just telling you.
Made to identify humans over bots and block bots from doing stuff. If you can defeat that, that sucks. The API is already competing with Google's, with OpenAI's, and other AI developers' similar stuff, although Mozilla says
I don't know why they hopped on this hype.
Taken from the web page to navigate it isn't kept by Mozilla. But it is absolutely going to be kept by the large language model or the AI chatbot that accesses it, because what the API gives that LLM is a version of the web page in JSON, ordered and structured, so it's, or other formats than JSON, but JSON seems to be the major one, and so obviously they're just going to
call it JSON.
JSON Derulo. Store that and train on that. So that privacy stuff doesn't exist at all when it comes to those cloud-based AI models. The tagline
no, they do not.
Building a better web from Mozilla has just never been so far away. They keep doing the same stuff. They build stuff that already exists. They think they can compete with big tech companies, but they arrive months or years late. They don't provide a differentiated service or product. They don't try to improve upon it. They don't try to provide the same service in a different way that would be more privacy focused. They just keep blundering in the exact same direction, and it is insanely frustrating.
It is. So I just wanted to pause for a sec, but this is exactly why I'm building the N8N automation with my own AI LLM to do a lot of this stuff, because I don't want them collecting data on me and stuff like that. It's just an issue. And I'm really not happy that Mozilla is getting on this AI bandwagon. I'm not happy that Brave did it either. I think these softwares, knowing that privacy is a big core of their audience and the priorities they have, they're really missing the mark. The Mozilla Foundation, I think, has become really, really out of touch with the average user. It's really become an issue right now. Like when people ask me why I prefer iPhone over, Android, specifically, it's not that I like Apple more than Google, it's that I hate Apple less than Google. And I'm kind of coming to that same, mindset as well, with that I hate Firefox less than, Chromium and Chrome browsers and all that. So I'm really hoping that Ladybird and Servo start taking off. Now, the Servo just got its 0.1 release, so it's like early days. Ladybird still probably has a couple years because the web browser is really, really tough to develop for, but it'll be nice to see some competition.
The founder of Mastodon, Eugen Roshko, is stepping down as the CEO of Mastodon and transferring all assets and...
Oh yeah, I read this. I read this when it was released.
He says he doesn't want to end up like so many other
Brave and Opera as the browser.
Where the founders
Opera's been crap for years. They are even worse than Google, in my opinion.
Against the community.
Just look up their
there's been no risk
owners.
Of that, but also he doesn't
Not the Norwegian ones, the Chinese consortium
he also
they
says
have.
that running such a platform is a very stressful activity and that he just does not have the right personality for it. He says he's been compared with tech billionaires, even though he doesn't make that kind of cash, not even remotely, or some articles comparing him to Jeff Bezos. All that kind of community and news scrutiny apparently slowly wore him down. Eugen says he's proud of where Mastodon landed and that he'll be sticking around.
Brave, because there's also Ducko.
Mastodon will also apparently
Brave's
set up
pretty
a
good
new non-profit in Belgium.
if you're looking for Chromium-based
that
one.
non-profit status in Germany. There's already a new executive director and the team stays in place to keep working on Mastodon. It looks like they also got some solid funding, around 2.5 million euros in total, from Jeff Atwood, who's the founder of Stack Exchange, from Biz Stone, who's one of Twitter's co-founders, from the founder of Craigslist, from AltStore, an alternative EU-based app store, and also from...
I wonder how much of that is actually going towards the hosting costs of Mastodon.social, the biggest instance.
I couldn't find much about because their website is in Chinese and the translation is just illegible. Hopefully, with that kind of money, Mastodon can keep growing and stay open, decentralized, and private. I will personally admit I don't use it all that much anymore. I already have to deal with all the YouTube comments on this channel, on my Warhammer channel, and that's more than enough community interaction for me. Thank you very much. I do post the videos I have on Mastodon.
TikTok alone used to burn me out, then I just don't get on TikTok anymore.
Generally, I found that social media has a really bad impact on my own personal mental health, so I just dialed it way back, and I think it helped a lot.
I did the same thing.
Let's conclude this episode on some gaming news. First, Valve updated their Steam runtime for Linux to version 4, and it is a big one. This thing is there to make sure games can run on Linux properly,
number one has to be
of the
Microsoft
distribution
Browser
that you
Explorer.
actually use.
You mean
this
Edge?
runtime is now based on Debian 13 libraries instead of Debian 11, which means a lot of stuff is now much more recent in there, like libflag, OpenSSL, the SDL, and more. Plenty of libraries that were also 32 and 64-bit compatible are now 64-bit only, because, of course, Debian 13 dropped 32-bit as a general install target, and so a lot of these libraries just are no longer available in 32-bit version from Debian. But I think it's a good move. It could be in preparation of moving Steam to be fully 64-bit, because it's basically one of the last holdouts for distros to transition away from the entire 32-bit architecture. Hopefully this can happen soon so we can stop dedicating resources to maintaining an architecture that is not really that useful anymore. But also, it's nice to have all of those updated libraries, because if you want to build a game for Linux or you want to test it on Linux through Proton, having access to those more modern libraries is probably better.
Yep.
And we also got a pretty big update for VK-D3D Proton, the compatibility layer that translates DirectX 12 to Vulkan for Linux gaming. Version 3 is now released and it supports FSR 4, and it rewrites the entire shader backend, which will add support for the DirectX 12 version of a lot of games that were completely broken when you tried to run them in DirectX 12 mode, like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example. Support for that Microsoft API also was improved by mapping various features to Vulkan extensions, and there are nice performance improvements for Halo Infinite, for The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, for Death Stranding, for Helldivers 2, for Starfield, Satisfactory, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and a lot more. It's very nice to see even more work on all those compatibility layers and tools.
It's only gonna start escalating more and more over time.
When these release, they might attract a lot more people, and to have an experience that is as good as possible and have people stick with this and find Linux as a very suitable gaming platform, we need those tools to be perfect or as close to perfect as can be. So if we can make sure that all the games that at least don't require anti-cheat can run almost perfectly, then that's good, and then we'll be able to take a look at that anti-cheat stuff once people have bought into the Steam machine and actually want to play some competitive games that require anti-cheat. Maybe developers at that point will realize they really should let people play. And if the Steam machine doesn't interest you, but you would like a new computer, then check out our sponsor, Tuxedo Computer. Tuxedo is the only brand of computers that I rely upon these days. They make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux pre-installed. So when you buy one, you know that Linux is just going to run.
Yep. I mean, look. I use a Tuxedo laptop. I love them too, okay? I'm not hating on a sponsor at all. I like Tuxedo. They make good laptops. I, thoroughly am happy with my little Stellaris Slim 15. I bought it right before the tariffs, were gonna be happening, so that's why I have the slightly older version Ryzen 8000 series and NVIDIA 4000 series versus the 9000 and 5000 series, respectively. But this is a great laptop. It's got the AMD CPU and GPU in there, as well as the NVIDIA GPU, so I can turn the NVIDIA GPU on and off. I've had no issues with this. I put Pop OS on it. It came with Tuxedo OS, which I gave it a fair shake, but I'm just not that big a fan of KDE. That's just me. And I like having the same workflow and consistency between my desktops and laptops. So, yeah. Barnacules Nerdgasm used to work at Microsoft and left. Yeah. I think I'm actually mutuals with Barnacules on TikTok as well. He's a good dude. I try to catch a stream once in a while, but he's on the West Coast, so sometimes when he streams, I'm already asleep. Yeah, he used to work at Microsoft. That's actually how I came across him many, many years ago. Early days when he was in his content. He was one of the people that I actually watched to learn quite a bit from. But, yeah. Let me see something. God. Okay. But, let's see. It's getting to be, about 10 o'clock right now. So, I think we're gonna save the couple videos I have for tomorrow, because I will be, back on tomorrow for Monday's stream. Messy's videos, he only does live streams now. I'm friends with him on Steam. Nice. Yeah, he only does live streams because he's got a lot going on. I, was paying attention to his health issues and everything. Live streams are just a lot easier to do than content. It really is. That's why I consistently have a live stream schedule, but I don't have a consistent content making schedule, because between my full-time job, and everything else I do, it's a lot. To even push myself to do one video a week. I'm trying to. I have scripts written for like 3 or 4 or 5 different... Actually, I have 5 different scripts written up. I do want to catch up on some stuff when Thanksgiving is here. Like you saw, like I've been talking about this logging and SIEM server for like weeks now, and I just got a big chunk of it done today, but I need to get the rest of that SIEM server done before I can do my LLM and AI server, and then I can do the once the LLM and AI server is done, then I can get the automation server set up, and then eventually I want to, the next step after that would be upgrading the GPU in here to a 5070 Ti. Then eventually I want to make another LLM, well no, after the LLM server and the automation server comes the TTS server, then the 5070 Ti upgrade for this desktop over here. The 5950X CPU is still plenty for me right now. I have no issues with it. And then eventually I want to build another LLM box with starting out with one 5070 Ti, maybe 2. I want to go to maybe put a proxy in there to load balance it, so I can have my own LLM server, and that will do some really fun things, like recap the entire chat between with Twitch and stuff, and then I will actually be able to create my own moderation bot for Kick, because Kick's moderation is lacking. I at least have stream elements over on Twitch for the regex, but even then it kind of misses things, so it'd be nice to shore up that layer. Stream Elements is going to have a mod bot apparently going out to Kick, so eventually I'm working on, the presence over on Kick and everything. Kick is still going? Yeah, it's going, and actually it's growing. There's a lot of people going more and more to Kick because Twitch has been messing up royally. Like, it's been all over the news, at least if you've been, like, online. Like, the Emaru security F-up at TwitchCon. There's been the unfair application of the rules between different creators that should have been removed. We all know some creators that should have been at least, punished a little bit harsher, and then some get punished for weird things. But the interesting thing about Twitch is that both Twitch and Kick use a lot of the same backend systems on Amazon, which is the Amazon IVR, I think it is, but Twitch is owned by Amazon, as you know. Stopped using Twitch ages ago, they're double standard. Yeah, but that's why I simulcast to YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and then TikTok is there because I have an audience, but the stream is definitely optimized for Twitch. That is where all the alerts and stuff are going in. I'm building in the Kick features slowly, as well as YouTube, but one rule for one and one for others. Yeah, that's how it is. But anyway, we will be back on tomorrow night. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully I have some more stuff on the logging server to do. I think after I finish the stream, I'm going to quickly install NUT, the network UPS tools, and then I'm going to get that guy working on some more stuff. I want to get this logging server done this week. And then I can start building the LLM server. I gotta put the CPU and motherboard together, move the RAM over, and then move the GPUs over. Then we'll have an LLM server. And then we get to play with what models we want to put on it. And then I gotta do the N8N automation. And then I move the bots over from the Raspberry Pi over to that. So we have some cool things coming. Hopefully in the Q1 of next year, we'll be working on Kubernetes. We'll have some Kubernetes projects. I'm hoping to have some money set aside for Raspberry Pis to do Pi 5 cluster, maybe at least 8 gigabytes each, maybe 16 if we can swing it. Get 5 of them, rack mount it. And then I also want to do that LLM server like I talked about, so it'll be fun. But yeah. Anyway, I will be back on tomorrow. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure to follow me on all the socials. If you haven't seen them, they are in the bio. I'm on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and TikTok. And then, of course, we have the Discord and the Matrix server. Links are all in the bio for all of that stuff. I've been, working on bots for Matrix and everything. So I'm getting through that backlog of things. ADHD meds are coming in through. But love you all. Stay safe. Happy hacking, and I will see you all tomorrow. Stick around for the raid if you're on Twitch.